people from hell?
No,
Okay.
it kills everybody, but here's the
right.
thing.
Yes,
it kills anybody that you shoot it at, but it will kill a god. But
yeah.
it only shoot regular people with it. He never shoots a god with it.
And
Very
on top of that,
unsatisfying.
the gun. But here's the thing: the bad thing about the God gun is if it shoots you, you don't go to heaven or hell.
Right.
You just die.
disappear. Cease to be.
Which brings me to the end of the movie, which is. Was the guy, the leader of the cult, was he a devil or was he an angel? Because when he shot him, he flew
went
up
up
into the
to the
sky,
heavens.
and then the heavens sucked
Maybe
him
it was
up.
the fallen
And there
angel.
was a Christ kind of... He turned into a Christ kind of figure for a second.
He did go up, not down.
Not down.
Definitely went
And
up.
everybody
He
else
definitely
that everybody else that he shot with that God gun.
For those of
went
you
down.
just tuning in, this is a theological discussion of the movie Drive Angry.
I will say this. I don't know what I need to jump the gun on you, Paul.
No.
There was one cameo in this. We talked about it
Oh, yes.
yesterday. Did you already
Well,
on
no.
your list of things to talk about?
No, this is. I just said to Curtis, I said, they make this character, this guy who's wearing this shirt with all the movie spoilers on it. It's like, and they reveal, like, this guy. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't know who this is. And
That
then-
is Tom Atkins, and I think I might have been the only one in the theater, like, when the camera panned up and showed his face, I was like, oh my god. That was the only moment I was like, yes. He is,
Because he had quite a cinematic intro.
Yeah.
What was
that is for hardcore horror fans.
Sure.
Well, he's in a ton of classic horror movies, but my favorite being Night of the Creeps, where he plays the retired detective. I believe his name's Raymond in Night of the Creeps. If you guys have not seen Night of the Creeps, shame on you. That is a movie where you can say the question, how did it get made? And you just get a slap across the face. It's such a good movie.
I thought that actor was wonderful, though. I thought he was
He's
great.
great.
Yeah, I thought he
He's
was
in one of the
great.
Halloweens and Halloween 3. He's in a ton of stuff.
I do want to point out the bad police work there too, which is the police come to the hotel after Nicolas Cage has killed 12 different men, all not with traditional weapons, axes, hoes, like a scythe or a scythe, or and now meanwhile they're like, oh, we got to get this Nick Cage character. They don't question the 12 people dead in his bedroom, all with weapons. I mean, that would be the bigger conspiracy.
Oh, everybody in this movie is terrible at their job. Everybody from waitresses to police to sheriffs to motel owners, everybody in this movie is garbage at completing their job.
And sometimes switching on a dime too, like that short order cook who was like, hey,
Jack McGee.
Jack McGee from The Fighter to Drive Angry, who's like, from the minute he's like, you don't give out free muffins to poor people, and now I'm gonna fuck you.
Yeah, and
like it's like what?
Push my dick into your butt.
When I get bored in a movie this quickly, I start to think about the actors and I start to think about their experience on set, and I just think about like he just kept repeatedly being called like a fat fuck, and like a piece of shit. You fat fuck, you fat piece of shit. And I was just like, man, this guy must be like, yeah, I guess that's where I'm at as an actor. That's where I am. I'm the fat fuck. It's depressing to me.
Yeah, because even William Fichtner goes like, hey, fat fuck. Yeah, it's like really. I also, talking about William Fichtner's character, the accountant, he would always flip this coin up in the air. Now, I expected it to change, but every time it came down, it was always an FBI badge.
Yeah.
Which I was like, well...
Turn into a weapon.
Yeah, like he was like, oh, it's your lucky day. And I was like, oh, because it turned into an FBI badge, not a gun. But no, it always turned into an FBI
It
badge.
made no sense. It was like it was pretend suspense.
Now, how would people? This is an honest question. How were people? What did people think they were getting out of this cult beyond? But I'm honest.
Well,
like,
they
what?
think they were bringing forth hell on earth, is what they say. That they're going to open up something and that they're going to bring about hell on earth.
But as we know, the real Satan hates babies being sacrificed in his name, according to the accountant. And this guy was not affiliated with hell at all. And he also didn't have a traditional, like, this devil sign for their group was kind of like an anarchy sign.
This dude is stabbed twice in the movie by the same necklace that he's wearing.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, bro, the first time you get stabbed by your own necklace because it's sharp and full of points, like, get rid of it. Don't try and fight another woman who stabs you with a necklace again.
Not only was this guy stabbed twice, but his dick was apparently bitten off.
But it did not stop him from telling women he was going to rape them.
Yes, I was like, wait a minute, you're gonna break her the same way, but with what? What is going on?
I love that before his henchman could answer the question, does this guy have a dick or not, he shot him. So
Yes.
we all know now.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, really classy for the bad guy, he carried around the femur of Nicolas Cage's daughter to remind, like, as a walking stick.
There was a lot of knee violence in this movie. A lot of knees were being shot out.
That's absolutely true.
One of the more disturbing and questionable moments is Amber Heard, obviously a gorgeous woman,
All right,
decides
Seriously,
that
I
she
mean, like, I agree with you, Paul. Like,
Yes.
She's-
like
she's
busty,
gorgeous.
and
really
butt's
has
great.
it all.
Smart,
She's
too.
an actress.
Very
all of her
She's doing
sex
her
parts
work.
are
more
Poetry
sexy Megan Fox.
She's sort of a next level human being.
She goes to this bar with Nick Cage and she's like, all right, you go to sleep, I'm gonna go get fucked. And then immediately
by
after...
the doughiest,
Yeah.
grossest
She
guy.
picks
Like a professional wrestler.
Yeah, one of like the weirdest looking guy. Like he looks like a reject from Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
Like, and then we cut to their sex scene, and he's just painting her toenails.
She's dressed, he's nude.
Yes.
And then he's painting her toenails, and then chaos erupts because she sees a shadow go by the outside of their motel. Like, oh God, somebody's out there. I better investigate. Investigate what? You are in a motel. There must be non-stop shadows outside your window.
A motel that was attached to a very popular bar.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of foot traffic.
Oh, God.
And it also, while he's doing that, Nicolas Cage is in the other room getting fucked, and we have a clip of that. That's one clip I was able to find. It's short.
Oh, baby. Why did you fuck naked?
I never disrobe before gunfire.
And at which point, the door opens up, and a 10-minute montage.
That was an
of-
amazing scene.
That was
I'm
amazing.
sorry, that scene was
He didn't stop
amazing.
having sex with this woman
Not for a
while
second.
shooting and blowing everybody
Yes.
away.
Nicolas
Which was done-
Cage.
But you see, this is what I feel like, you guys, this is like what sold the movie. You want to know how this got made? A guy came in, railed on coke, whoever created this movie, went into a studio and goes, there's a fucking scene where this girl, and then Nicolas Cage is sitting there, and she's just fucking riding the shit out of him. He's like, I never disrobe before I get fucked. And then I just fuck that, and then say, back. It goes a fucking thing about this. This guy's like, yes, man,
I'd
yes.
say yes to that.
Yes, I greenlight your movie. I greenlight your movie. That's a movie I want to fucking see.
That's it.
I will argue the talking was my problem. When the script, it did get slow when it was like, when the whole movie stopped after that 20-minute long like chase scene. And then it was like, okay, here's David Morris, and he's like, oh, we did some bad stuff, brother.
Oh, my favorite scene of David Morris talking to Amber Heard in the garage while Nicolas Cage just stares stone-faced at a barrel on fire in the middle of a hot day. It's like in the middle of a hot day, we're going to light a fire in this barrel, and he's just going to stare into it because...
Do you mind if I just how about this is an idea? How about I'm gonna light a fire in this barrel over here.
and then-
What do you think about it?
David Morris comes up and goes, remind you of home? Or it's something like that.
It's not the flames that bother you so much. It's seeing your loved ones.
Oh, that was the craziest.
We finally get an insight on what hell is like, and Nick Cage is like, yeah, the flames don't bother him, but apparently there are view screens that you are forced to watch of your loved ones
It's
suffering.
literally view. He says, it's the view screens. What? What do you mean it's the view? Don't say it's the view screens like that's a normal thing
I wanna
to
see
imagine in hell.
First of all, hell looked like a city in this movie, like a flaming
It's
city.
supposed to be like a prison or
prison,
something.
yeah, I mean, I want to get in there.
And he said that the devil was so. The account says the devil's very well read.
Yes. He read all the Harry Potters.
I don't know what he means by that.
Well, you know what? There comes a time in every movie where you just have to sit back and think. That's right. It's time for our what the fuck moment. This is the one moment in the movie that we feel needs to really be discussed. I'm talking about the moments that make no sense, like moments like this.
I'm sorry, man. I got magic and I got poetry at my fingertips, and I'm, most of the time, and this is, this includes naps. I'm an F-18, bro, and I will destroy you in the air, and I will deploy my ordnance to the ground.
Things like that make no sense. I had to put a Charlie Sheen clip in here because he epitomizes a what the fuck moment. So my what the fuck moment has to be, it's a small moment, but Amber Heard comes home to catch her boyfriend having sex with a woman because she cut him off from sex until they're engaged but I guess then they were engaged.
Yeah, they were engaged with them.
And then
It's when she says that and the girl asks her, how long has it been since you had sex? And she goes, 2 days. But 2 days is like a decade in horny fucker years.
yeah, horny fucker years.
Yeah.
So she comes
It's
home.
true.
And they
It is. That's true.
That's
that
a
is
universal
true. Yeah,
truth.
I mean, we could all connect to that.
they come home. They have this crazy fight. He's like beating the shit out of her.
And he's like a clan member.
Yeah, he's a big burly clan member, and he's just
I
beating.
wish this movie had been about her taste in men.
She did also get in that car with Nick Cage for like, all right, done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good and quick.
And shoot cops really quick.
Yeah, she shot a cop.
Yeah, 2.
Everything seems super cool to her.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll roll with whatever.
Yeah.
She was ready to grab a. I mean,
She's
moment
down.
one, she grabs the fat fuck's dick,
Yep.
squeezes it real hard,
Yep.
and we know she's good because she gave pastries to poor people.
Yeah.
And
so
That's her save the
We
cat.
needed
That's
that
her to
scene.
save the cat.
We needed that scene.
So so anyway, they get into this big fight. Nick Cage comes to her rescue and drops an air conditioner on her boyfriend's head. 2 scenes later, that guy has nearly a scratch on his face.
Yeah.
He's
At
fine.
all. He is totally fine. An air conditioner dropped on this man's head. And he's like, fucking bitch. Like, and
Yeah.
That to me was
Made no sense.
Made no sense whatsoever. But then just gave a good torture scene where William Fichtner broke a baseball bat and then crucified him to the wall.
Yeah.
Which was also was well done. Well done.
Pretty intense. Pretty intense.
Any other moments that call out to you guys?
My favorite part of this movie was when there's a car chase and William Fichtner is forced to drive off of a bridge, right? And the other guys get away. And then after they get away, they cut back.
I know what you're
They cut back to William Fichtner's upside down, fell off a bridge, crushed police car that he was driving. And inexplicably, two stoners walk up to the car, right? The car is smoking, crushed. They smoke pot out of a bowl and are like, whoa, bro.
Immediately.
Whoa.
Before they dismount
Yeah.
from the bicycle.
Oh, yeah. They immediately smoke pot like, whoa, bro, can you believe this, bro? And it's like a scene from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or something. William Fichtner kicks the door off of his car in order to get out. The door smashes one of the stoners. Like, he flies
Back.
10 feet, and the other guy's like, oh my God. Like, and they have a conversation that is the stupidest thing in the world. And then William Fichtner's basically like, I know when you die. I'll see you when you're 73, and I'll see you in a couple of months.
Yeah. And
By the way, the costume design and just design of this movie was terrible. Like, one of those kids had on, like, John Lennon glasses. Like, really?
Yeah. It was as if they were like, let's get them from like a sketch comedy show about stoners.
Exactly.
For me, and there's so many. I think we've covered pretty much all the moments that I was just sort of like, what are you talking about? But I will say the Casablanca style ending of, I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship. They're going to. He's like, I'm gonna escape again. If you put me in that jail, I'm just gonna go back. And Fichtner's like, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm gonna
In the second movie.
in the second movie.
And then he lets Nick Cage drive.
Yeah.
And I tried so hard to find the song. How bad was that song over, like, where they're driving?
wow.
It was like,
Terrible.
I'm alive,
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Oh,
And I couldn't. I went all over last night trying
It's
to
like a
find
song
this.
by Daughtry written for the U.S. military or something.
I was really confused by it. Right after the sex scene, when he's shooting people and still has a cigar in his mouth, fucking this girl, holding a bottle of Jack Daniels.
She is coming.
She's into
the
it.
entire
At
time.
one point, she yells out toward the very end, "Don't be shy."
No.
Yes, she does. I heard her scream out, "Don't be shy."
You know that's just like 80-yard lines. They're
course
just
it
like,
is.
Don't be shy.
Of course
just
it
shout anything.
But then right after, when she's like crumbled up in a
Yeah.
corner, she looks like she's been like
Traumatized.
so traumatized. It's like
And not only
And then she goes, that she was shooting while fucking me.
yes.
That's never happened to me before. Like, and then she looks at the guys and is like, has that happened to you before?
Let's get a shrink
that
in
was
here.
that was the craziest monologue
like-
ever.
Amazing.
arguably, she was so traumatized by the shooting while fucking that she moved out of the room next to a rack of like made towels at a hotel and is sitting there naked for hours. Obviously, the cops have been there for a long time.
Those
Like,
cops
She was,
were
like,
doing
cuddled.
terrible work, by the way.
Yeah.
They hadn't found her. They hadn't found
Yeah.
They hadn't found anything.
Well, that's because some of them were working as the devil worshippers, as William Fichtner ripped off one of the cops' outfits. It's like, oh, you're part of the devil worship crew.
Because sometimes he can smell stuff.
I also loved how in most of the major like fight sequences, they would immediately, when chaos would start to break out, have a shot of the baby being whisked away.
Yes.
Like to make sure we were all okay, knowing that baby was safe.
Yeah.
Overall, too, the movie does try to hide the fact that he's from hell, even though the movie opens with a car escaping from hell, and then the next time you see it, it's pulling up in the real world. And it's Nick Cage is in it.
Well, everybody seems 100% okay with it. Even David Morse, who buried Nicolas Cage.
I carried you at your
And
funeral.
then Nicolas Cage he literally goes, "You heard what they did to my daughter? Then you know why I'm back." And David Morse is like, "All right, I'm cool with that. I'm gonna choose to be cool with that." And then this person is literally from hell, and David Morse is like, "All right, I got no more questions."
Right as rain.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to this Amber Heard girl while you stare at a barrel on fire.
And by the way, here's 2 more muscle cars. Pick which one you want.
Honestly, there wasn't as much driving angry as I thought there would be.
There was one giant scene of
And she
driving.
had a
I guess
vanity
so.
plate. She had a vanity plate that
So
said
Drive
"Drive
Angry."
Angry."
And with like
Which
crystals
wasn't even
around it.
It was a thing that said "Drive Angry." It wasn't her car,
was her boyfriend's car, right?
Boyfriend's car, and there was another bumper sticker on there that says "I brake for pussy."
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
With no like a picture of a cat. It was like just out there. It was like I brake for pussy.
Nicolas Cage just brought that to set. I think it'd be really funny. Do you think this would be a good idea if we put this on the car?
Do you guys want to know? This is apparently the title of the movie was inspired by Groundhog Day, in which Bill Murray is driving with the groundhog and says, "Drive angry." And that was apparently the director's
he says,
inspiration.
"Don't drive angry."
Don't drive angry.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was
that was the dude who pitched the movie high on coke, being like, "Hey, what if you did drive angry? Then what would
What's
happen?
that?
That's a
Let
movie."
me tell you about my favorite movie. It's called Groundhog Day. And there's a scene where the groundhog's driving the car. Oh, my God.
now, June, you wanted to do something here today? You wanted to do a little reenactment?
Yes, one of my favorite scenes from this movie was when, I'll just set it up a little bit, and then Paul, maybe you could play Nick Cage.
Okay, I forget exactly the line again, but I'm going to try.
Okay, and I'll play Amber Heard. It's when when Nick Cage has already been shot in the eyeball, and then he appears. Scene begins. Melvin, I don't understand. Melvin, I don't understand. You were shot 2 seconds ago. What happened to your eye? Melvin, I don't understand this.
I'll tell you about it later.
Scene.
Wow.
Yeah.
First of all, good job. Well done.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
tell
another thing.
you about it later.
She also seems
All
like
right.
he's shot repeatedly in the movie, then fixes himself.
Yes.
Why? Who knows why? But and then
is that a
she's
thing?
like, "All right, I'm going to keep going with this. I will keep getting in the car with you to go
Gotcha.
nowhere and to get nothing for myself."
Which, first of all,
Yeah.
so
She's not. She has
She had
no
no arc.
She
She
has
had
no
no-
point. She has no journey. She has no goal.
I think her objective overall, if I was playing this character, would just be to live. To keep on living.
At any point she's not in the car with Nicolas Cage or with Nicolas Cage, she has a better chance of doing it.
Yes.
I feel like she was on a mission. Her goal was to fuck men up because her boyfriend.
Well, yeah, I do think
abused her.
she wanted to humiliate men. That's why she had that doughy reservation
Yes.
kid painting her toenails and stuff like that.
All right, well, now let's talk about a big. We've been talking about this now a couple times in a row. we do a little game here where this movie just came out this weekend, so the weekend box office just came in.
Oof.
So now,
What are our numbers?
Okay, well, does anyone want to guess how big the budget was for this movie? First of all,
I'll take a guess.
okay,
$45 million.
$45 million.
Holy cow.
hold on. No, there's a,
Oh no.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Yeah,
right.
no,
I'm
no.
so very
Easy.
excited.
45.
Easy. I think it's higher. I'm going to say like 80 million.
Okay,
I'm going to say, because I would guess 45 at 2D, but I'm
Yeah.
going 3D.
Yep.
3D, I'm going to 100.
Oh, my God.
$85 million.
Wow.
Now,
That was close.
No.
this is actually really interesting. I want to put this in perspective.
Thanks, Doug.
It's in 2,290 theaters, which is the same amount of theaters that Hall Pass is in, which is just to give you an idea. Drive Angry made a total of this weekend. Anyone want to take a guess?
Well, I
What-
know Hall Pass did really bad.
Okay. I'll say that
So,
Hall Pass came
Hall
in
Pass was a number one.
number one.
So
At what?
Wow,
All right, so Hall
at
Pass
like
came in
14
number
million.
one at $13.5 million. So the question now is, where did Drive Angry come in?
Drive
Oh,
Angry, I'm going to
gosh.
guess, came in at 4.
Okay.
I'll say 4.
Okay.
I'm going to say 10.
It is number 9.
What?
Number 9 at $5 million.
Ooh.
It made $1 million on Friday night.
What?
$2 million
I'm
on
kinda
Saturday night.
surprised
That's
about
like
that.
a big 3D movie. I would
Yes.
think that
You
know
people
what, though?
would go at go to it for that reason.
There was what was in 3-dimensional. I just
It's
remember
the-
organ bits coming
Yeah.
out.
Oh yeah, like
Kneecaps
bullets and yeah.
the lowest 3D opening ever.
Good.
He needs to do. I mean, I just think it's like, at a certain point, you get burned by a guy.
Yes.
And even though you love him, like he's a Christopher Walken Part 2 or something. Nick Cage, you love him. I love him.
I think he's
love him
amazing.
dearly.
But you cannot keep doing the same low shit
Yes, you
and
can.
expect that people are going to keep coming back.
You're wrong.
Season of the Witch. Season of the
wrong.
Witch. Real. Season
Shame
of,
on you.
Maybe.
You just can't.
Get out.
Do a good movie.
Do you want to? Do you guys want to? I was going to put this clip at the end, but I think maybe now it's a good chance to understand why Nick Cage did this movie.
I also read that one of the appealing facets of you was the chance to get your eyes shot out.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that's about. I know on Season of the Witch, which is a movie that I'm also very excited about, I tried to get the producers to shoot my eye out with a bow and arrow, but they didn't want to do that. So when Patrick, why wouldn't they want to do that? I just still to this day can't understand. But in the first 10 minutes of my meeting with Patrick, he volunteered that my eye would be blown out with a gun. And I went, hey, I'm in. It might have something to do with some sort of ancient botanic philosophy.
So deep.
9 days on the Yggdrasil.
That is he took the movie because he gets his eye shot out.
Now we know how to get Nick Cage to be in our movie if we have a pitch.
Well, now we've asked you guys. Obviously Nick Cage's career is a little bit in free fall. We went to you guys. It's time for some viewer mail.
You've got mail.
Last week I asked you guys to email us at howdidthisgetmade@earwolf.com for a little Nick Cage Mad Libs, where you'd pitch us the premise and the title of a Nick Cage movie. So we're going to go around and read some of our favorite ones. I'll start off. This one's from Robert Pennick. Nick Cage is Hitler and is challenged to a drinking contest by Winston Churchill. Now he must hold his liquor or surrender the concentration camps in... Alcoholocaust.
Oh, God.
Anyone else have a...
Nick Cage is a supermarket manager whose store is attacked by demons. Now he must fight them off before the store opens at 7 a.m. in Cleanup on Aisle 666.
Nice. I've got from Katie, Nick Cage is an artist who fights crime in a van in an effort to save the muse who inspires him in Artistic License.
Okay, this is from Joel Dudley Stapley.
Why'd you say that so critically?
I've got
his
notes.
name, Jason?
I've got notes for you, Joel. No.
You have notes on his name?
Yes, because Dudley is in quotes. Joel Dudley Stapley.
Could be Stapley for all you know.
Stapley, yeah. Nick Cage is a millionaire who is haunted by ghost ninjas. Now he must return the mystical artifact before they murder one of his 3 much younger girlfriends in Sorry Ninjas, No Can Fu.
I got this one. Nick Cage is a transvestite who is hired by terrorists. Now he must find love in Texas before he makes the worst mistake of his life in Pre-Op Co-op.
Oh, God.
Any other ones? Anyone?
Nicolas Cage is an elementary school teacher whose student science project stumbles upon an alternative fuel made from used baby diapers. Now he must chaperone 22 8-year-olds to Washington, D.C. to present their findings before Congress before his own wife gives birth to their first child back home in diaper duties.
All these movies, I feel like, could be Nicolas Cage movies.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yes,
yeah, these are all pretty good.
If not Adam Sandler movies.
I would be remiss if we did not talk about the one scene that I like the most, which is Nick Cage in the middle of the movie goes, I only drink a beer out of a man's skull.
Out of Jonah King's skull.
Oh, Jonah King's skull. Yeah. And at the end of the movie, he drinks beer out of a skull, and it's swishing out of the eyeball holes. Because when he killed him with the GOG gun, the skull did land on the ground perfectly cleaned out and perfect for drinking beer out of.
Yes.
The minute he shot him with that gun and they showed that skull landing, I was like, oh, that's gonna be great.
30 minutes into the movie when he said, I want to drink beer out of his skull, I was like, well, we're definitely going to see that, right?
Might I point out this one thing here, that the best acting in the movie, by far, and the best filmmaking of the entire film was by a woman who I don't think had any lines.
Yes, the woman who's holding the baby.
woman who's holding the baby.
Yes.
Her
I thought
arc,
it was Michaela Watkins for like half of the movie, too.
her arc is
She
the
was
best thing in the movie.
incredible.
The actual quality was like her emotional turn throughout the course of the movie, and everything else. was flotsam.
Because you didn't know. Was she going to kill the baby? Was she not
Yeah,
going to kill
and
the baby?
she also, like, you saw her have real, like, reservations.
Yes.
You saw her be like...
I went through it with her.
Yeah.
She was acting. She was really acting. So that is the
Do you
best
think
performance
she
of
was
the film.
paid as an extra? But she had no line. She
I think
did not speak once.
I think she was paid in methamphetamine, like everybody else in that movie.
Well, that brings us to the end of episode 5. Special guest, Curtis Gwynn, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And if you are a fan of these movies, it's Best Worst Movie, which is awesome.
Yeah,
It is-
Michael Paul Stevenson, a great director, kid from Troll 2, grew up to make a documentary about being in Troll 2. Check out Best Worst Movie. It's a plug for Michael. He's a great guy.
And it's
great movie.
such a great movie. You can follow Curtis Gwynn on Twitter at Curtis Gwynn. You can follow me at Paul Scheer and at Miss June Diane. You can't follow Jason, but just follow Ice-T's wife at Coco's World instead.
That's what I'm promoting?
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to plug that.
And join us next week. Next Monday night at midnight, we'll announce our next movie. In the meantime, you can visit our Facebook page and search How Did This Get Made, or leave comments for us at the Earwolf page. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
This has been an Earwolf Media production. Executive producers Jeff Ulrich and Scott Ackerman. For more information, visit earwolf.com.
Earwolfradio.com. The wolf dead.
New Order, and here to stay on XFM 104.9. Well, we're here to stay, aren't we, Steve?
True enough.
Well, for another 4 weeks anyway, then we're off. Then
That's
4 more
right.
shows. They'll have to order a new DJ. Alright?
That was genius.
Hey?
Oh, wow.
I'm
It's as simple as that.
I'm Ricky Gervais, Steve Mitchell, and Carl Pilkington.
Oh, man.
Did anyone read the Guardian yesterday? It was Steve's big... we were interviewed together.
I've
Steve-
never been interviewed before in the paper. I've certainly never had my photo in a national
We were very
paper before.
excited. We loved the interview. It was talking about our top 10 albums between us. We loved it. We talked really fast, like school kids. We were excited. It was a great interview, and all the way through, it was Ricky Gervais with his writing partner, Steve Mitchell.
Stephen Mitchell. It's
He
not
was
even
gutted.
like Merchant.
He phoned me up the night before and he was gutted. I know, it's awful. And it was big letters and just all the way through, and the caption, and it's just like, oh, God.
But it's embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? It's embarrassing because it's like I was trying to get in the paper. I couldn't believe my luck. And then that just draws attention to the fact that I'm not a celebrity and consequently they can't even remember my name.
But the worst thing was that one of my favourite albums of all time, I said in there, was Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. And I said, because, you know, I think one of the most beautiful songs ever is If You See Her, Say Hello. And of course these people were sort of transcribing it from, you know, a dictaphone. It came out, my favourite song of all time was If You See a Sailor.
If you see a sailor. Oh, hello. Fruity.
Oh, Bob Drillboyd's, up on the trap with, where's the sailor gone to? With Ricky Gervais and Steve Mitchellings. Oh.
I don't know. They must have thought my name was Mitchell all along. They obviously never knew.
The evidence is there.
But I don't know why. It was like they reported in the paper that we'd been nominated for a Sony, and it said, Ricky Gervais, who hosts the breakfast show on XFM, and it's that sort of, it's just guessing. It's like, presumably someone's gone, does he host the breakfast show? And someone's gone, yeah. And that's their research done.
Yeah, but there was a thing about, The Office set in Swindon. That's someone going, just write an article about The Office. Where's it set? Swindon, I think. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
Pathetic.
we research the show now and again, don't we?
Yeah.
Even we look things up. Well, actually, people phone in. Usually
Yeah.
that fella. What's that fella's name that calls in who's not got the website? He's got a funny name.
Oh.
Gilbo or something.
James.
Phone in if you remember what his name is.
Yeah.
James at Lose Control.
Yeah, what's his surname though?
Oh, for goodness sake, this is just going to be interesting to him.
Yeah.
And his friends.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You remember?
We better play another record.
Yes.
Come, I'll tell you what. If
Johnny
you like,
Mango.
Mango, that's it, yeah. Now, if you like Elvis Costello's Alison, or maybe
Rick, I
Freeze, My Brother Jake,
One of my favourites.
stay tuned. Badly Drawn Boy, Silent Sigh,
Cracking tune, that.
XFM 104.9. Maybe there'll be a few silent sighs around London on the 4th of May when, that's it, we're off the air for
We are
3
indeed.
months.
Yeah. Wow, you're really getting into the DJ patter today.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Slick
It's only
links.
taken, what is it, 5 years?
Yeah.
Now you're finally as good as Foxy.
Coming up,
Yes.
that anecdote that Carl didn't get to last week about Neil Armstrong.
Right.
I can't wait. It's because he took 3 links telling us about the horse.
Yes, of course. Of
The
course.
horse. Think of
Yeah,
that.
wow.
I went out with Carl on Thursday night.
Right.
Right. It was one of the most enjoyable nights. We just, went out for about, 5 or 6 pints, a little crawl, and adventures happened around Carl.
Yeah.
And just me sitting talking to him was just incredible. I'm thinking that a competition would be win a pint with Carl.
Yes.
Just
That would be a hell
they
of a
just
gig.
have to go for a pint and they can ask him anything they want.
Yeah.
He's just great. We met my friend, didn't we? Tell him all about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? What?
Did you enjoy it as much as Ricky, Carl?
Yeah, there was things I learned as well, which was good.
Okay.
You know his mate Robin, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
You'll discuss that later.
I'll tell you later about.
He's got all his near-death experiences to come. Win a pint, and of course coming up, Carl's homework was the quotes, and Carl's come up with a great idea to show that anyone can do quotes. He's invented a thing like faking it, where he's got 2 real quotes,
right,
and he's made one up.
Okay.
And he's going to fool us. I bet we won't be able to.
Brilliant. Sorry, what was the challenge last
Look at him looking at us. What's the matter with you?
It's just that before you were like, no, this is good for you, but now it's turning into a game.
At your expense?
Yeah.
Has it only just dawned on you?
Carl, well, I'm joking. It's great, honestly. It's really good.
What was the Carl challenge last week? You said I thought we did the quotes last week.
No, but I gave him a book
happiness.
on happiness. It's all about happiness
Right.
and what the pursuit of happiness, and it's in sort of like quote form and everything. But Carl's gonna do a couple of ones and faking it just to show. I mean, because he's been coming up with fables all week as well. Now he comes up with something, he goes, "That's a fable," isn't it? And he tells me so he's getting good. Now,
to it all. Should we play another track? What have you got? You got something special?
I brought in I saw Elvis Costello and Jonathan Ross a couple of weeks ago, and he did just an acoustic version of Alison, and I forgot what an amazing song it is, and it's just, he's fantastic, he's the man. Listen to this guitar sound, it's so beautiful. My aim is true, to provide quality entertainment of a Saturday. That was Elvis Costello and his attractions, and Alison on XFM 104.9. I'm Ricky Gervais.
Steve Mitchell here, and Carl Pilkington.
Oh, isn't it?
It's going alright, it's going alright. I obviously been doing some acting, as you know, I mentioned it last week, doing this this sort of comedy pilot. This week, Carl, you're gonna be loving this. I've been doing stunts. I swear to God, I've been doing my own stunts with the guy that once made Christopher Reeve fly as Superman, right? And I was doing stunts. I had to do a thing where my character has to commit suicide. Don't think we didn't bring that up. Were you anywhere near that horse? No? Fine, let's carry on. And, my character has to commit suicide, and he has to sort of, leap off a building. So the first shot...
that's something for comedy.
Well, we were up on a roof, and obviously they had the crash mats and stuff, and I had to kind of leap off, and land on the mats and stuff. And obviously I was petrified the whole time because I was wearing my glasses. Petrified that they might get broken. So I was, like, not really doing it properly, and kind of leaping like what, you know, people when they can't dive into a swimming pool, and so they put that one foot out first to sort of break their fall.
Was it you that told me that you could never get into fights?
No, I can never get into fights or go in a mosh pit because of my glasses. I've missed out in life because I can't. Because if I was in a fight and I say, "Come on, then you are," you know, and I was in a pub or something, they just have to whiff off the glasses, just knock them off. I'm done for. I got nothing.
Really bad short-sighted, are you?
Yeah, but anything's an advantage in a fight, isn't it? And the fact that they're just a blur is bound to hamper my otherwise brilliant, you know, ninja skills. So yeah, I've never got into a fight. I've never been in a fight at all. I've never, as I say, been in the mosh pit.
On the wire.
So this was making me sort of a bit worried. And anyway, so then I think, well, fine, I've done my stunt, and I did it, and everyone clapped. They were pleased with it, and the guy who said I was very good. So then they drive us to the next location, right? I'm thinking I've done my stunts now. There's a crane. I think, what's going on here? Now they need to shoot me. Like, I've already done the stunt where I've sort of leapt off the building. Now they've got to actually see me falling, right? So I have to get strapped in with this huge belt, and they clip wires onto me, and they hoist me about 30, 40 foot into the air on this wire, and I have to, and then they drop me at great speed, and I have to scream and shout. You know, it was partly acting. And,
glasses on?
Glasses, by this time I'd managed to get some wire fixed to my glasses so they wouldn't come off my head. I assured
they were stunt glasses. They were doing their own stunts.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So they hoist me into there on this thing. They do a couple of sort of demo versions, you know, and just gradually ease me up higher and higher so I kind of become acclimatized to it. And They get about 30 feet up, and they got these huge crash mats, like those great big ones you always see because stunt people have. And they set up the camera and stuff down below, and while I'm up in the air dangling there, they remove those crash mats, and they replace them with those really thin ones that you always see, like, teenage gymnasts using on Blue Peter. Do you know what I mean? The really thin ones they used to have at school, right? And I'm looking down at this, and I'm thinking now, they may as well have shouted up, if you fall, you're done for, but we might be able to protect the equipment. Do you know what I mean? It was so rubbish.
But you weren't going to land on the floor, presumably?
Well, the idea was that the wire would stop that. Right?
Oh, I see, but there was no that was their safety.
That was the safety net.
Why did they not leave the real ones in?
Because they had to, I don't know, for the shot and stuff, they had to be able to do it. But anyway, what was particularly joyful is one of the other actors pointed this out, right? This is the, this is the health and safety statement from the stunt guys, right? And they obviously have to write up this health and safety statement about how they do it. And it says, we confirm that we have proper safety policies, procedures to comply with the Health and Safety Act 1974, and that we will not do anything which compromises the health, safety and welfare of your production crew, actors or members of the public. If the above situation changes, we'll advise you immediately. I mean, if they think that maybe they do want to hurt members of the public, look at that fat one over there, just try and hit her and bring him down.
Don't worry about that one. Don't worry. She can take it. She can take it.
But, so that reassured me, obviously, and, now my whole body's racked with pain. Limbs, arms, head, neck. Unbelievable.
Well, is the shot worth having?
Probably not.
You'll wish you
Do you know what the cameraman whispered to me? The cameraman whispered to me, he'd probably never use it.
Yeah, Steve, you'll wish you hadn't told that wimpy tale when you hear just three random tales of near-death experiences that Carl told me.
Right.
Coming up. I mean, honestly.
Really?
At least you had stunt people and crash mats.
Yeah,
and you got paid.
Yeah. The things that he got up to, just through stupidity.
Well.
Will put you what? What one of them wasn't through stupidity?
Cakes.
I'm already excited.
The cake one?
Yeah.
Which one's that?
Sorry, you had a near-death experience involving a cake?
Hold on, I've got three. I've got the paper round, the nicking slate, and the Mr. Freeze. What's the cake one?
Yeah, I suppose. The cream cake.
Oh! Yeah.
Right, now you're talking in riddles. Can you have these next?
Yeah, play a record. Cooper Temple Claws. Who needs enemies? Good question, lads. Nobody. This is XFM 104.9. I'm Ricky Gervais.
Oh, they should print a little book of those. They're great. Oh, how you can relate any song or artist to anything else.
Easy.
Joyful.
Easy. Well, yeah, so, me and Carl went out, for a beer, and it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, enjoyed myself.
We started off,
good.
and you met my mate, Robin, didn't you?
Yeah.
And, some of the stories. Do you want to tell Steve some things about Robin that you learned?
Do you know him well?
Yes.
Well, do you know about his worm problem as a kid?
Go on.
Right. He, what I can remember is he had worms as a kid. Not sure how you get him, he never answered me, he was getting a bit touchy about it.
Right.
This is like the second time I met him. I think he was a bit annoyed that Ricky told me about his problem.
What now, now straight away, you not being there, instinctively, what do you think went on with this story about worms?
My suspicion is rather like when you told a group of people that Robin had once suckled milk from a cow's udder.
Yeah.
Yeah? Did he mention that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. My suspicion is that, like the cow story, the worm story is not true.
But
and
why would he get so sort of uppity about it?
Well, imagine if that wasn't the first time he'd done it. Imagine if he did that every single time he was with somebody for the first time and Robin was just met them. He will tell that story to anyone.
But they do say there's no smoke without fire.
Oh, Robin! I also told him...
That's a fable.
I also told him that the way Robin cured these worms was because the doctor told his mother, right, to hold a piece of ham or cheese near Robin's anus so the worms would come out for the food, and he believed it.
I'll tell you why, though.
I said to Robin used to sit on Spam to try and get the worms out, and he believed it.
But Steve, right, do you remember that story about 3 or 4 years ago where there was some bloke in the army, he went away to somewhere, Vietnam or whatever, he was messing about in the woods.
Messing about in the woods?
Shouldn't he have been fighting?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Right, and he walked through some lake, and I think he'd cut his toe or something on something, and some worm of some sort crawled in the gash.
Yeah.
And, it was in his body, and the doctor said, we've got to get this out of your body. So, what they did was, they said, right, the thinnest part or something of your body that things can crawl through is on the top of your head. So, they wrapped
where the skull is?
So they wrapped some bacon.
No, they didn't!
It did. That's
oh,
that
right.
thing.
So
Everyone...
he's gone in by the toe. So what we do is, I'll tell you what, that worm's probably heading straight for the head. We'll put a bit of bacon on it. The thinnest part of the body is the skull. Of course it's not the thinnest part of the body. It's where your brain case is, isn't it? It's the skull.
There was a reason for it. And it was like they stuck some bacon on his head. And
as ever, the vital piece of information, i.e. the reason, Carl seems to have forgotten.
Because the worm was in his body, and they said everyone likes the smell of bacon.
Including worms. Even a Vietnamese lake worm. They love bacon.
Remember last week when I said about the little fella with the bone with no brain, and you were proved wrong?
No.
Please.
No. We were saying it wasn't a little fella. We were saying it was a stillborn child. It wasn't a little fella.
You're changing it now. You weren't having any of it last week.
Right, hang on a minute. I'm getting confused. There was a Vietnamese... There was a Vietnamese snake that went inside of a soldier.
A little, like, maggot or some sort that you have to get out of your body because it causes problems.
Yes, and so in order to get it out of the body, they strapped bacon to his head.
Yeah.
That is great. This doctor...
And did that work?
I think so. They had a picture of him smiling.
Oh, God, what, the worm or the bloke?
The bloke.
Oh, dear.
Honestly, I hope someone knows the story.
Right.
It was about 3 years ago, I reckon.
Okay.
And, yeah, it did work.
GI bacon.
So this is why
so what the worm burrowed out of his head to get the bacon?
Get to the bacon.
Right. That's great.
So this is why when Robin was telling his story, I was a little bit disappointed if it wasn't true.
Right.
Because in a way...
You know Robin's never been to Vietnam.
No, but what do you really think that Robin... Well, as Robin said at the time, Carl, why would I sit on ham, then tell Ricky Gervais? It's a very good point.
Because if he was a kid, you do daft things like that as a kid.
Right.
It's the telling Ricky Gervais, though.
Yeah. And then, oh, bless him.
Okay.
And then anyway, Robin left, and I tried to chase him, but he got away, and he knows that yeah. And then we had a few pints, and then, Carl embarked on some of the greatest stories ever told. Can you tell the story about your dad?
Let me run it. I haven't spoke to him all week, so let me run it by him.
Okay, play record.
Because,
What we got?
We've got, one of Steve's...
Yeah, well, bizarrely enough, this comes from the Teachers 2 soundtrack, the soundtrack to the current TV series. There's a slight whiff of nepotism in the air.
Yeah.
Rick, would you like to explain why?
Well, that's why you're doing it. My girlfriend worked on it. But
yeah.
You were going to play this anyway, weren't you?
Well, I was, actually. Bizarrely enough, I was going to play some I Am Clute, and this is from, as I say, the Teachers soundtrack. This is called To You. It's a good track. I Am Clute, and a track called To You from the Teachers soundtrack. That's also got, I noticed the Electric Soft Parade, The Hives, Star Sailor, Feeder, Turin Breaks, Mercury Rev on there. It's a good little collection.
Lovely. Carl, has just had confirmation. He's looking smug, because someone phoned up and went, it is true, it's a Laogai chi worm, and you wrap bacon around your head. That's all the bloke knew as well.
Yeah.
And his name was Gary.
Yeah.
So I'm not having it.
No.
And he said, see, that's why the Robin thing isn't so weird. He said, but when you said he tried it with cheese, he said I was having none of it. Strokes, hard to explain. Like Carl, really?
Yes, yes.
So, Carl, concentrate.
Yeah, go on.
So, we'll leave the worm with the bacon wrapped around the head, shall we?
Well, if you're ever caught in the jungle...
Yeah, always carry some...
bit of Danish.
Good advice. Lovely. So, would you like to start on your... to Steve, because I've heard all these.
We won't do them all.
Well, we'll start off with the Mr. Freeze. Tell Steve the story of Mr. Freeze. This is the first time he nearly died.
This is the most serious of the lot, really. So, what it was, do you know, like, I don't know if your mum and dad did the same thing, but, like, they do the weekly shopping on like, a Friday.
Yeah.
So when you got to Thursday, there wouldn't be much stuff left in the cupboard. It'd just be like, you know, your Jacob's crackers and stuff like that. So when they'd been to the supermarket and they came back, I was like, you know, what's that saying? Like a pig in... You know, I loved it. It was like loads of food coming in, loads of biscuits.
What is that saying?
He nearly said pig in shit.
Right.
Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, all this food comes in.
Thank God he didn't.
Otherwise he'd have been in trouble.
That's true enough.
Because he's culpable for our actions, because he's the producer. So technically, that twat's in charge. Go on.
Right, so anyway, so there's loads of food, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at this, and chocolate biscuits, and you know, penguins and stuff.
Bacon.
And bacon.
Just in case, you never know.
So anyway, my mum and dad's putting the food away. Me and our kid are like, he's already grabbed something, gone back upstairs.
It's like feral children. it's like a quest for fire. And then they run upstairs. What did you sit under the bed, gnawing at some sort of pig's trotter?
So I saw, do you remember Mr. Freeze Pops?
I do, yes. Well, they're kind of like popsicles, icicles.
Yeah, but really long, like a foot long, right? Yeah. So I thought, I'll have one of them, so I grabbed it.
Went for the nutritious stuff first.
Absolutely.
And like my mum and dad are putting the stuff away and what have you. And I rip it open and knock it back. Right, straight away, just right back like
Swallow
that.
It,
right
yeah.
But it went down the wrong way, right? So
what, down your shirt?
So I was like, oh god, I can't breathe. And my mum and dad didn't even know what I'd ate. Do you know what I mean? I ate it so quick.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of tapping my mum on the back, going. She's going, oh god, you know, he's choking again, because I was always choking. If there was one thing, I don't know if I've got like a small throat, but I mean, even Ricky knows I can't drink that much, can I?
Yeah.
Do you know,
or eat pebbles.
I'm not a quick drinker. I'd always, I think I'm scared of like swallowing stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like bottle tops and mint imperials and stuff. I was always choking on stuff.
Oh, jeez.
So anyway, she's going, oh god, what's he picked up on it now?
Drop it!
So,
and she hit his nose with a stick.
So I was going, I'm choking. At this point, my dad had like, I think he'd put his share away, you know, his food away, and he'd gone
his share! I love it!
Yeah. He'd gone to watch, like, Winner Takes All or whatever, in a lounge, and I was in the kitchen, and I was starting to, like, I didn't care anymore, do you know what I mean? I just got to that point where I wasn't struggling anymore.
You just thought, I'm done for.
I just was, like, falling to the ground. And my mum's going, you know, get in here, I think it's serious. And my dad comes in and sort of starts shouting at me, saying that's what you get for being greedy. He didn't even know what I'd eaten.
Well, it was the moment to teach you a lesson, certainly.
So he's there like that, and my mum's going, oh, look at him, and my lips were going purple, and my eyes were rolling into the back of my head.
You look like Marilyn Manson.
And, so anyway, she grabbed me from behind and did that fireman thing.
The Heimlich manoeuvre.
Yeah. And, you know, winded me. And it came up, and I was alright.
What, the whole popsicle came flying back out?
You see, that's what I don't understand. Because there was nothing there.
No, just a little bit. No, it swells up, doesn't it? Because it irritated it. So it went down this sort of like your epiglottis. It went down the wrong way, like it went into your air canal instead of your throat, and it sort of spasms, and that's the fear. You just got to calm it down and relax.
So in time, I would have been alright.
Yeah,
anyway.
you don't.
Well, no, you might have.
So that's so that's
hang on.
one.
So but
no. But the weird thing is, like for like 3 days after that, I felt like a sort of special person. I went to school.
I'm saying nothing.
I did full days.
A special needs person.
Yeah.
I went to school the next 3 days after that. I didn't like wag it or anything. I did full days.
I love that. 3 days, turn over.
Yeah, exactly. After 3 days, you thought, screw it.
Yeah, well, did a quick history exam.
But have you ever had that where you've like felt like I've been given another chance here?
Right, next one. That's popsicle. That's popsicle hell. We'll call that. Right, next one.
Which one's the next one?
Oh, what about your paper round?
Right.
Can I ask very quickly? Did your life flash before your eyes like they say it did?
No, I just sort of went really calm and like, I'm ready for this now.
Right.
I wasn't bothered, do you know what I mean?
You had no regrets?
No. It was weird. It was really weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, the paper round one. Paper round, I'd still say it's the best job I've ever had.
And he means it!
No, I really enjoyed it. It's like, you know, you don't have to work with anyone else, right? So you make your own rules.
Just think of that.
You know, you sort of
You're spreading information to people, vital information.
Giving a service, and no one else is around, you know, you can just do what you want and think about stuff whilst you're cycling around on your bike. It's really good.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Imagine the stuff he's thinking about when he's riding around.
I can't. Oh, so getting in the head of a salamander.
So anyway, I loved it, and even though I only got like 50p a day, right, no matter what the weather was like and stuff, I used to get up at 4:30 and go and do the round. And
why'd you get up at 4:30?
Because I wanted to watch the Pink Panther at 5:30, so I wanted to get me paper round done.
I said, why didn't you watch the Pink Panther?
And then did the paper.
He went, oh, I can't sit there thinking I've got my paper round to do.
He'll ruin it for him.
Yeah. So is it a good job or not?
So 4:30 I was up and about, and this morning it was like winter, really bad winter, bad snow, you know, freezing cold, really windy and all that. And my mum said to me before I went to bed, she said, don't be getting up tomorrow. I'll give you the 50p. I said, it's not about the 50p. So, you know, people want the papers and stuff. So,
conscientious.
So anyway, I went to bed thinking, you know, that's it. I've told her I'm still going, so, you know, whatever. Go.
The other creeps you out?
Little tiny casket. Hey guys, exciting news. I'm really stoked about this. On March 7th at noon Pacific Standard Time, Team Sideways is going to host an AMA on the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit on Reddit. Pretty exciting, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So the mods will post an announcement a week prior, so if you can't join us at that time, at that date, you can post your questions there. Please don't email us questions. We'll lose them and forget them. Let's try and contain this just to Reddit, but we're super excited. And yeah, so if you can join us.
March 7th, 2015.
March 7th, 2015, sorry. Just in case somebody, you know, 5 years from now is listening to this episode. Not 2017. This is not for yourself. Sorry.
Thinking sideways.
I don't understand.
Stories of things you think you don't know the answer to.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Thinking Sideways, the podcast. I'm Devin, hosting super well. Joined by my co-hosts,
Joe.
And
Steve.
Yeah. Here's one for you.
What?
In 1836, 5 boys were hunting rabbits in the northeast area of Arthur's Seat, Edinburgh. Pro tip: if you are boys hunting and you find something even remotely weird, just walk away. Just walk away. The number of cases that we cover that start out in this way is mind-boggling. It's boys, specifically young boys. Groups of young boys find something and then think, oh, I know. Let's go investigate that. Why? Why?
Because they're boys. The 10-year-old boy in me completely identifies with the boys in this story.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
You know, if you were to kick off a really cool unsolved mystery, you should not turn your back on that as long as it doesn't involve you getting killed.
Fair.
No, it's mostly just playing with stuff.
Yeah.
And throwing stuff.
I just think we should start keeping a counter.
Well, yeah, although these kids were kind of jerks.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, so, okay. The boys were hunting wabbits.
Wabbit?
Kill the wabbit.
Oh, wow.
Kill the wabbit.
Kill the wabbit. Kill the wabbit. And they came across a cave. Zoinks! They better check that out. So they did. Inside they found 17 small caskets in a pile.
Oh, and by the way, it wasn't really a cave. It's kind of like a hole inside.
My story's so much better.
I know, a cave is cool.
Cave is cool. No, it was kind of like an
They found a torch, an old torch, and they lit the torch, and they walked in the cave.
It was kind of an alcove area.
Yeah, there was a piece of slate covering it. Some stories say that there were like 3 pieces of slate covering it.
There were 17 small caskets in a pile, 8 on the bottom, 8 in the middle, and 1 on top. And on further investigation, they found that the caskets contained a small wooden doll in each one, carved to look like a human, clothed in small handmade garments. The dolls were said to be about the size of an adult finger, so 3 or 4 inches long.
The doll, not the cask.
Yeah, the doll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Being boys, dumb, stupid boys.
Hey.
I'm gonna watch it.
Instead of running to the police or the adult with this find, they decided, oh, you know what would be awesome? Let's just throw these things at each other.
This is the equivalent of a dirt wad fight. You find something and you throw it at your friend to make them run and scream.
Yeah, I mean,
this is why the 10-year-old boy in me loves this story so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, at that age, I probably would have done the same thing, actually.
Yeah.
I would have been a total jerk, I
Well,
admit.
because of this, only 8 of these dolls remain to this day.
Yeah.
They were destroyed. Most of them were destroyed.
Little Bad jerks.
boys.
Yeah. And before we go much further, this is the Arthur Seat murder dolls. And it was a listener suggestion about 1 million years ago from Thomas. So
Hey,
thank
thanks,
you, Thomas. All right, you ready to keep going?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of creeping me out.
Oh, it's kind of creepy.
Boys throwing caskets at each other creeps you out?
Little tiny caskets.
It gets a little creepy.
Oh, that's true.
A little creepier, maybe. Anyhow, it's not clear how the 8 remaining caskets that did made it back to civilization.
In one piece?
In any kind of sense. The boys were never questioned. They never gave any statements. It's unclear if they told their school teacher or he overheard them talking about how much fun it was that they were throwing coffins at each other.
Was it the school teacher or their headmaster?
Oh, maybe their
I thought it was the headmaster.
Somebody involved in school.
Okay.
Janitor.
Who happened to also be an amateur archaeologist.
Because that's what he did in those days.
Right. So he heard the boys, or the boys told him, or something. Maybe one of the boys had a black eye, and he was like, "Well, how'd that happen?" And he was like, "Oh, this dude's a coffin." I don't know what happened. And he was like, "Okay, well, tell me more." Either way, somehow the dolls made it back. And again, it's not clear even if it was only the 8 dolls or all the dolls or what happened, but only 8 of them really survived.
Yeah, things have a way of sort of like disappearing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the dolls for a second. More, I guess. There are some reports that there are both male and female dolls, but I don't actually think that's the case.
I would agree with this.
And like I said, only 8 of the dolls survived, but none of them, as far as I can tell, were dressed as humans. And let's be fair, if you're gonna make tiny little doll clothes, it's way easier to make a skirt than make trousers, but they all have like trousers on. The ones that weren't.
Yeah, they weren't really trousers though, right? With legs. I mean, these things didn't have individual legs.
They
did.
Did.
They had a pair of legs. They weren't just like a stub that had some kind of feature carved into them to give the appearance. They were 2 individual legs.
Yeah.
And little pants on them.
Little pants on them. The dolls in the bottom coffin seem to have been older and more deteriorated. Some of the garments were rotting away or totally rotted away. You can see in some of the pictures the middle tier seemed to have looked more recent. And the top one apparently looked almost brand new. And again, in fairness, it's not clear how this information was relayed.
Yeah, the kids probably upset the site quite a bit when they pillaged it so they could throw stuff at each other.
Yeah.
So,
and these were found in Arthur's Seat, which is in Edinburgh, Scotland. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you do any research on that site by chance?
Pertaining to what?
Well, I pulled a Joe, and I went Google mapping, and then I started researching it. Did you know that that's actually an old volcano?
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's also only about 2 miles away from the ocean.
Yeah.
The North Sea. Sorry, not the ocean.
It's a really weird raised chunk of earth in the middle of a town. So it's just it was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I was just asking.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little spot. It's one of the only fully green spots on Google Maps in Edinburgh.
It is. Because the rest is a town.
Back to the dolls.
Oh, sorry.
There were 2 different kinds of coffins. One carved more rounded, one a little more square. The different kinds of coffins, however, don't seem to have been exclusive by tier. They were all intermingled.
And this is, I saw this in the photos, but people might not understand this. When you say rounded versus square, the square was really more just a rectangle, just simple straight pieces of wood.
Yeah.
And the rounded, it only looked like somebody had basically carved off the corners to smooth it out a little bit. So that was the only style difference I saw.
That was my impression, too.
Okay, just...
Not that some of them were circles and some were rectangles.
It'd be weird.
Yeah, that would be super weird. It also seems that the dolls were not actually made for this purpose. Many of the dolls were missing limbs, arms specifically. They all had their legs, I think. so that they would fit inside the coffins. And in fact, it's a bit odd that the coffins weren't made to the size of the dolls.
That's one of the things that sort of made me wonder too.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like maybe they were always meant to be together. But the dolls do seem to have been from the same set. They all seem to be almost identical. The theory is that they were a set of soldiers, toy soldiers. There were markings around the feet that looked like they had once been painted, like they were little booties, black booties.
Were they painted or were they blackened? I got the impression that they were blackened almost with soot or a candle or something.
That's a cheaper way to do it. You just grab a chunk of charcoal out of the fire.
Well, yeah, I know, and this is why I'm asking. I never saw anything that said specifically. Some said they were black, and some said they were blackened.
Yeah,
so
that was my too. So I just said painted, but you're probably right. It probably was something more like charcoal or something like that, which wouldn't last as long, but who cares?
Yeah. They weren't worried about that.
Early 1800s. The legs were carved in a way that seemed to denote kind of a rigid upward standing pose.
Like standing at attention if you're a toy soldier.
Yeah, and in fact, upon further inspection, it was discovered that they would stand straight on their own if a small amount of weight was added to the front of them, like a musket.
Well, the arms that were missing would have held a musket.
Or it would have been on a
Oh yeah, make a tripod kind of.
No, like slung across their chest, just like hanging.
Oh, so it wasn't actually going to touch the ground. Okay, I got the impression that it was that you see soldiers, holding, holding their gun against the ground, so they make a tripod formation.
That wasn't my sense. It was that they would have had something else.
I will believe you because I'm not positive. I didn't go as far down in this one.
Yeah, that's probably true. It was, like I said, they were probably toy soldiers and they probably had muskets or something like that. So they would stand upright in that situation. And quickly, I want to address the rotting.
Because the
different
bottom,
tiers.
middle, and then the top.
It was initially suggested that perhaps they were of 3 different ages.
Mm-hmm.
That the bottom ones had been placed much earlier than the middle ones, and the middle ones placed much earlier than the top one.
Mm-hmm.
Or that perhaps the top tier was in a work in progress or whatever. But I do want to just mention anybody who's ever had like a wood pile may know that things rot from the bottom.
Because that's where the moisture's at?
Mm-hmm. So those would have, even if they'd all been placed at the same time, would have absolutely rotted much quicker and would have looked as though they were much older than the middle and top ones.
Mm-hmm.
Tiers.
Yeah.
Tiers? We'll call them tiers.
Yeah, tiers is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to have fungus and bugs and just plain water damage in
crime
general to
for
that wood.
20
Makes
people
total
walking
sense.
past. It's not in the middle of the night.
So, like I
this is
said,
not
there
after
was
the pubs are
the
closed. This doesn't look gang related. I don't know what's gone on here. But every day in Huddersfield.
I think it was probably at
And
the
this-
same time, maybe a short period of time, but definitely no more than 12 years, which I guess is kind of a long period of time.
That is kind of a long period of time.
A bit of time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if it was me doing this, I would have done it all at once just to save myself a lot of trips up the mountainside.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, but that's inferring that if somebody's putting these in that location for a specific reason, that it's one reason and not a reason that reoccurs over a period of time. Because I know some of the reasons that they would happen, we're going to talk about in the theory section. So that's a big presumption to say I'm going to do it just this way because it's easiest.
No, actually, what I really would have done is pitched them out in the trash. But
Yeah, not buried them in the first place.
broken.
I wouldn't have gotten the hassle of making them little coffins. I would have just tossed them, but
Giving them to Goodwill or something.
Obviously, obviously, I've got
Jeez.
different motivations than whoever put these things there.
Mm-hmm. And here's where I get to actually nerd out a little bit to help justify my no longer than 12 years thing. I'm really excited about this. I am a bit of a historical fashion buff. As you two know, sitting in this room with me. And
this is where the dudes don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
There was a lot of analysis of the textiles and notions. And notions are like thread and buttons and the other miscellaneous things other than just the cloth that you would use to create something, in case you didn't know what those things were. Anyways, there was a lot of analysis happening on that aspect of the dolls, since it's pretty well recognized that they probably were toy soldiers and they came from the same set. It's hard to glean a date from that, because they could have been 50, 100 years old by the time they were placed in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought, well, let's look at the fabric, which I think is great. If you look at the pictures of the dolls, it's fairly clear to say that they're not really clothed for burial. That is to say, they're not in the traditional burial clothes of the time. It's more of garments kind of representing clothes, everyday wear, or maybe not garments at all, just to cover the dolls.
It's basically chunks of cloth over the top of them, right?
So they're not naked.
Yeah, except that they weren't actually just placed on top of them like a blanket. They were actually sewn into sleeves and pants. In fact, some of the dolls that were missing arms, also there are not armholes where an arm would have been. The seam is sewn up over that missing arm. So they were clothed for the purpose of going into those coffins once the coffins were made to size. Which is fairly interesting. No? You guys are looking at it.
Well, no, this is fashion stuff and how what
fine.
thread count and notions there are. I don't get it.
Yeah. So this is actually the bit. I'll just get into the bit that excites me a lot. The curator of European textiles at the National Museum of Scotland looked at these garments, and she noticed that the thread that had been used in some of the garments was 3-ply cotton thread. This
Wait, what? Huh?
This 3-ply cotton thread. So you know what plies are? You buy toilet paper, right? You know that 3-ply is there's 3 layers.
Yes.
2-ply is 2 layers, and single-ply is 1 layer.
Never use single ply.
Right. Why would you ever do that?
To yourself.
It's awful. But the same thing goes for thread. You can make thread with just 1 strand, or you can make it with multiple strands. It's stronger, better.
So it's 3 strands wound around each other.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it.
This is significant because the kind of thread, this 3-ply cotton thread, wasn't even remotely available prior to 1812 and didn't become readily available and used until the 1830s. So that can help us give a bit of a timeline for these garments. And it is fair to say that some of the other garments were sewn with 2 or 1-ply thread. So they could have been sewn earlier.
Yeah, but at the same time, people don't just pitch stuff out.
Right.
I mean, I've actually got sewing thread that I inherited from my mother, and who knows? She might have inherited
from her
mother.
Yeah, because if you don't use it all, why throw it out?
Yeah,
You use it
exactly.
sometime,
Yeah, there's a couple of loops there. You hang on to them for a quick stitch job.
Yeah, so this allows us to date the dolls as having likely been interred between the 1820s, mid-1820s to mid-1830s. Likely 1825 to 1835, just for convenience sake. I would say it's a pretty good time frame.
I'll buy it.
On the thread. So at first, the suspicion was that these dolls were related to witchcraft.
That's what I would have concluded.
Which, I mean, this is kind of late for the witchcraft bandwagon. It's not the 1600s. But
I think probably at that time, probably still a lot of people were kind of believing in that stuff.
well, it turns out, as recently as 1997, some women in Russia were murdered because they used folk magic on some people. They were burned at the stake.
Oh yeah,
in 1997.
No, I mean even in the 21st century, I mean there have been rumors of witchcraft started in some countries in Africa, and next thing you know, people are getting killed because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still going on.
Yeah. People thought maybe because they were mixing voodoo and witchcraft up. I'm not totally sure. I'm not up on my witchcraft stuff. I guess I should go back and do some learning. I didn't realize that they used dolls, but I guess the theory was that maybe the dolls were used to symbolically confine victims to their tombs forever.
Well, the doll could be, they're an effigy. And effigies have a pretty long history, and they've been used for lots of things. Traditional burial things, when a sarcophagus is not the right thing, but if you see the old stone carvings of kings that sit on top top of their caskets. That's an effigy. But effigies have been used in all scales for all kinds of practices through time. So an effigy can easily be linked to it. I don't think it has to just be a voodoo.
Yeah. And I guess we're in theory. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just keep talking about theories. Another primary early theory was that these dolls were meant to represent, in effigy, a bit, sailors who had been lost at sea to give them a sort of ceremonial burial. And like we said earlier, Arthur's Seat is just about 2 miles away from the coast of the North Sea. It does overlook the sea. It's pretty. It's the kind of person you bury somebody you cared about.
That makes sense, but you would think there'd be some sort of memorial.
You would think that.
Yeah.
You would also think that there would have been some sort of record of the loss of 17 sailors.
I don't think they bothered back in those days.
Again, okay. I'm going to point out a fallacy in that, which is you're presuming that all 17 died at the same time.
Yeah.
We're giving a 10-year range for these things to have been interred, which means that even if it wasn't over that 10-year time span, there could have been time between them being put in there.
That's fair, yeah.
So it could be, I knew Steve and Joe went on this ship, and then that whaling ship sank. So I made effigies so I could bury them at home. And then
back, by the way.
Yeah, of course. And then the next ship that you know a couple of guys are on it, so it could have built up that way.
That's fair.
I mean, we've got to be careful of saying they were all interred at the same time with that idea.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I guess I just think there's a cooler theory out there.
There is.
I hate this theory. I hate this one.
Why? Do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to talk about it after?
Let's wait till after.
Okay.
No, let's talk about your feelings.
Let's not.
No? You don't
No,
want to
I'm not a big talking about my feelings guy.
Podcast therapy session?
No. This is not that podcast.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Are you guys up on your early 19th century murders in Scotland?
Indeed.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, some listeners may be as well, so you might know these guys, William Burke and William Hare. Yeah?
Yeah.
Burke and Hare were Irish-born immigrants to Scotland. They are so famous, in fact, that there's apparently a British term called Burking, which is derived from Burke's name. So why are they famous? You may be asking if you don't know, if you're not up, like we are on our early 19th century murders in Scotland.
Yeah.
Well, for killing people, of course.
A lot of people.
The Killins.
The Killins. They are the guys behind what's known as the Westport murders, and they killed 16 people in 10 months. But Devin, you're yelling, undoubtedly, at your iPod in the car, and people think you're crazy. There were 17 dolls. Well, kind listener, that's interesting because Burke and Hare were killing folks to sell to a doctor to dissect, and they actually sold 17 bodies. The first one died of natural causes. That was their, introductory.
That was their inspiration. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, wow.
They thought, oh, let's sell him.
And then they're waiting for somebody else to die of natural causes, and they thought, let's just rush the process a little bit.
Yeah, so he expired of natural causes, and they basically realized how much money they could make and said, hey, why don't we just kill some people, sell their bodies?
What did they get for this? So they sold it to a professor?
A doctor named Dr. Knox.
Who was using him for...
lectures.
That's what it was. Okay. All right.
So they actually sold the first body for a hefty 7 pounds, 10 shillings, which doesn't sound like much now, but is about the equivalent of $1,226.81.
That's not...
Or about 806 pounds in 2015.
Yeah, I got to tell you that that really wouldn't be enough to incentivize me to murder somebody.
Well, in fairness, it's not nothing for just finding a body.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about murdering somebody for $1,200.
Well, but wait.
Yeah.
Actually,
I don't know, Joe. $1,200. I might be tempted.
That's a good point.
Wait,
okay.
it gets better. Dr. Knox offered any bodies that they bring him further, particularly if they were mostly healthy and just died of asphyxiation or something.
Yeah, being smothered.
He would pay them 10 pounds a body. And I did some quick math, and that meant that in 10 months, they would have made a handy $12,496 in today's. But there's actually a better calculation for what it is actually equivalent to with a cost of living, blah, 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 blah. If you want to find out how I got this number, you can email me. I will tell you all about it. I don't want to bore everybody. But it actually is about the equivalent of 211.
211 rounded, yeah.
dollars in 10 months by selling 17 bodies.
And murdering 16 people.
Murdering 16, well, I don't know, for 211.
Killing's a living.
I know. That's
it
a good
wasn't
point.
like hard. They just got them drunk and suffocated them. Anyways, the murders the murders and the one death were hugely sensationalized, and Hare and Burke were caught and tried. This is super Cliff Notes version of this story because this is not what the story's about. But essentially, the prosecutors were under the impression that Hare and Burke would just say, no, he did it, no, he did it, no, he did it, he did it. And the jury would get confused because people were dumb then, apparently. And they wouldn't convict either one of them.
You know, which I think a jury probably would have convicted both of them.
I agree. I think they probably would have too. But because of this, the prosecutors said, oh, well, actually, you know what? Hare is kind of the dummy of the two. So they offered to allow him to become what's known as becoming king's evidence, which basically means for immunity.
He rats out Burke.
Yeah. He said, yes, I will do that. And it worked. And in 1829, Burke was convicted and hanged.
Actually, he was convicted Christmas Eve, 1828, and executed a month later. You got to love it because, I mean, that doesn't happen in this country.
No, it does not.
It takes 30 years.
At least.
But here's the best part. Is that the judge in his sentencing said, yeah, you're going to be executed, and also the day after you're executed, you're going to be dissected in public. And he was dissected in public.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they then took his skeleton, and that is still in the Royal College.
I think at least his skull is. I'm not sure if his entire skeleton is.
Yeah, I know.
No, it goes a step further than that.
Oh.
They actually sold his skin as pocket purses.
Yeah.
They used it as leather goods basically and sold it.
There was one like I don't know if it was I can't remember. It was like a card purse or something like that, a little small purse that was made from the skin of his hand, and that sold as recently as I don't remember, like 2008 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was on. I mean, that's the grossest
Lots
part.
Of money, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I don't want to own anything that's made out of somebody's skin.
Especially not a murderer.
No.
Who knows what kind of bad juju that thing's carrying?
Oh yeah.
Anyways, you can look up this story. You should definitely look up this story.
Burke and Hare is a horrifying story.
Horrifying and super fascinating.
Oh yeah. Great story. Now, can we get to why I don't like the story?
No.
Oh, yeah, why?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Do you have more on it?
I do.
Let's have
I have
that.
lots more. So it's theorized that there were 17 victims, kind of. So it could have been similar to the burial for the sailors, kind of in an effigy. What's referred to as a mimic burial is, I think, probably the term you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It's because since the bodies were dissected for science reasons, they
never got a burial, did they?
They never got a burial, so it was supposed to represent them so that their souls could be laid to rest. There is the huge problem, one huge problem
What's
at
that?
least, and that is that of the 17 victims of Burke and Hare, 12 were women.
And all of the effigies
Dolls.
look male or don't have any feminine
Well, not
features.
only do they look male, that's fine. That's
Even
not a
in their
problem.
clothes, there's no feminine
There's
features.
no feminine features at all. So that's pretty big. Additionally, there's the problem of who would have created the dolls. And that comes into play here because Burke and Hare, there was a thought that one of them did it because they felt bad. But Burke and Hare were apprehended directly after their 17th murder.
Well, and also they were sociopaths, so they probably didn't feel bad.
Well,
I don't know if they're sociopaths, but they don't strike me as the kind of guys who would go to any huge hassle.
I think Hare seems like, well, he lived out the rest of his life in misery. Again, you should read the story.
He was not a popular guy.
Was not a popular guy, and people recognized him everywhere he went. Anyways, some people have suggested that there was an accomplice, because there were lots of accomplices, perhaps, that weren't ever actually convicted of anything in regards to the Burke and Hare story. But it seems like those people would want to keep a low profile. And maybe carting 17 coffins, no matter how small, into the wilderness would be kind of a high-profile thing.
Well, but they're 4 or 5 inch coffins. You can fit those into a bag very easily.
Yeah, but even
it's not going to be
still,
blatantly obvious. You're carrying a bag of stuff.
I think that they would have not done anything even wrong. Anything even kind of suspicious.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But, it's also possible, and I don't think, I'll just say this, I don't think that the dolls are connected to the murder in any way.
Nor do I, yeah.
But it is conceivable that maybe somebody, having heard about these 17 people having been died and sent off to be dissected and then basically tossed into the dumpster, maybe somebody got the idea to create these effigies and bury them.
Well, I guess it's also probably worth noting that the theory that the dolls were connected to the Burke Hare murders, the Westport murders, wasn't even posited until the 1990s. That connection wasn't even made until the 1990s, and somebody looked back and thought, "Oh, there's 17 victims."
Yeah, I know that's the only thing they have in common is a number.
Yeah, I think that's I know Steve has a bunch of stuff to talk about this, but I think that's one of the big ones, right?
Yeah, well, yes, it's so romantic to assign these dolls to this case.
What
it's
a
such a
weird
great romantic
word
notion.
to choose.
It's a romantic notion.
Yeah.
We found this connection between the two, and so somebody had remorse.
Fair.
That's, to me, why people go to it. Okay, well, to maybe direct who might have been, and I'm not on the stand of saying that is connected to these murders, but I know that the wives and children and the woman who owned the boarding house that they were in, they all got out relatively unscathed, but they all had to leave town.
Yeah.
But they didn't have to leave town immediately. So if we're going to say this is correct, there is a possibility that they had some bit of remorse or guilt or felt like they needed to do some kind of penance for it.
Sure.
So that's why they would have gone ahead and done this. Okay, that's the easy answer. I did a bunch of digging into the time frame and looking at, as we talked about a little bit earlier, is that the use of effigies was something that had been going on in Europe for years and years and years. And because we talked about it with the sailors thing.
Yeah.
But something else that was going on at the time and very close to when the dolls were found, cholera, typhus, and influenza were rampant in the area. I mean, if you look at the newsprints of the time, all kinds of alerts about this, and it's killing people like mad.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if your family member dies of cholera at the hospital,
they're not giving you that body.
No, you're not going to get the body back. So what do? You say, Aunt Janie died. Uncle Janie maybe, but Aunt Janie most likely. Aunt Janie died, and we can't do anything. So I'm going to do this little ceremonial thing here.
Yeah.
And then, oops, well, now Uncle Bob just got typhoid or died of typhoid, and then somebody else of influenza. All these deaths, and it may have just been pure happenstance. So the reason that's why I think they're there is either it's the sailors or somebody who knew, as everybody did, a bunch of people who died from some ailment that was just running like wildfire through the population.
That's fair. I didn't consider that.
No, that's it's very, very true. Another possibility, even though I don't think they would have gone to the bother, is that maybe either Hare or Burke built up a little collection of these little dolls. And it wasn't because they felt remorse, but because they had time in their hands and everything like that.
It's an accounting system, basically.
It's kind of like every time you shoot down an enemy fighter, you put a little Japanese zero on the side of the nose of your plane.
Oh yeah,
World
War II fighters did that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So every time you do it, you grab one of these dolls and make a little coffin for it and put it in the coffin, and then perhaps one of their wives or supposed alleged accomplices realized that, holy crap, this is kind of incriminating, and got rid of it. Although I think that probably more likely, to shoot a hole in my own theory, they just would have burned them But, you know, that's
a much simpler scenario.
That just popped into my head, so I
Well,
thought I'd throw it out there just to fill up a little airtime.
Yeah, I guess in fairness, to poke another hole in that, like I said, Burke and Hare were apprehended within, I think, an hour or two of their last murder.
Mhm.
They wouldn't have had time to complete the 17th doll.
Well, actually, though, maybe they completed the dolls before the murders.
I don't think they were that pre-planned.
No, actually, I doubt that
They seem
created
to
the
be
dolls.
crimes of opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, well, that's the thing is you can say, well, the wife or the mistress could have done it, but then again, why was she doing it, and at what point, why wouldn't she have just chucked him in the fire rather than hiking up the hill and then putting them into a hole?
Exactly.
I think that
Oh,
the
yeah.
simpler answer of somebody did it for something other than the Burke Hare murders is...
I agree.
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
just,
I
didn't
agree.
have. I don't have any good theories about what else.
Which is why I went through all the historical documentation to try to find some explanation that was a little more rooted in fact.
That's fair. I guess the only thing is that 17 people is a lot of people, but
Well, I mean,
but your sphere of influence and close relations.
Well,
is
it's
still
not
going to be
just-
relatively small.
It could be, if there was a big, like, say, cholera epidemic or something like that, then, and people had a lot of kids back then, many of whom died young. So it could be family members, you got a brother and a sister and an aunt and an uncle, maybe one of your parents, and then maybe a whole bunch of other people that you know, like schoolmates or whatever. And so maybe that was it. I don't
There's
know.
a host of reasons, and I think it's not going to do us any benefit to beat them into the ground, but
Not
no
really.
pun intended, but
Not
there's a
really.
whole bunch of them.
Yeah, there really is no mystery here, I think. But I do want to say that it is interesting though. There was a lot of opprobrium directed at a lot of people, like especially Hare, of course, and Dr. Knox, who dissected all these bodies. And it's like, oh, people keep bringing these dead bodies, and you pay them, and you pay them for them. You pay these guys for these bodies, and you never say, where are you getting all these bodies from? And he just dissected them, and so he had mobs showing up outside his house and throwing rocks through his windows. And
All of the family, the mistress, the
yeah.
wife and children, they all had to get out of town.
Oh hell yeah,
So that was a bad scene.
but the dolls.
Oh yeah, back to the dolls. Yeah. Okay,
I know. I'm sorry. I did a dangerous thing where I brought up a really interesting case that wasn't unsolved.
I think that
but it's super interesting.
Well, I think it is solved, but
In I think it's solved,
yeah,
to-
but
I'm sorry. I meant isn't unsolved.
But there's a bunch of points. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. We're
Sorry.
back on topic, Devin. Where
Yeah.
are we? Where are we going now?
We're going nowhere.
Yeah.
What?
We're there. Sorry, guys. That's it.
Well, really?
Oh, that's all we've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the whole, that's all the theories. And Steve came up with a pretty good one, I guess.
Yeah, I think the lesson is that if you've lost a lot of loved ones and you want to make little effigies in their honor, do a better job of hiding them so that some little jerk kids won't
Yeah.
come and
Really?
just bring them up and throw them at each other.
Throw
Hello.
them at each other. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's it. I guess I like Steve's theory the best.
No, that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, one. Although it doesn't explain why they were all dressed like little dudes.
Because they were little soldiers. They're
But-
little dudes to start with.
But you can put them in little skirts and stuff. If it's Aunt Jeannie
If you're
who died.
imaginative, you can. If you're not, you just dress what you have.
I guess that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Pants are really hard to make though. Just like
Yeah, I would say a skirt would be easier.
way easier. I'm just saying.
I understand.
Just saying, especially at that size.
I work with a bunch of non-creatives. Trust me. I've
I know you
seen
do.
things where I'm. What? Oh, okay.
So yeah, do you guys have favorite theories? I know yours is probably
Yeah, I
your
already
theory.
said mine.
I'm still gonna go with the chupacabra.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Every
I
time.
know. No, I have no favorite theories in this one.
I have no opinion whatsoever on this.
I know. I don't really.
I don't
It's,
care about this
yeah,
story at all.
Yeah.
Well, sorry it's a little short this week.
But no, I guess I do have one opinion, which is that the typical name that is given to this mystery is the Arthur C. Murder Dolls,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's a really cool name.
It is.
Yeah, I mean
That's true.
Yeah, the mystery
Well, but-
isn't so cool, but the name is
Well,
really
again,
awesome.
that's the tie to the Burke and Hare
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're-
situation.
Yeah, murder dolls. There's just something so cool and creepy about that. But
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, there's really no tie-in other than the number 17.
I agree.
Yeah.
So if you want to find out how I came up with that weird giant number,
I do.
We'll talk about it afterwards. Or you have a theory about what the Arthur Seat murder dolls might be, or just the Arthur Seat dolls, or whatever, you can email us, thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. You are probably not listening to us on the website, but you can listen to us on the website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. There are some of my research links up there as well. And on that as well, you can find the link to buy merch if you want. We got it. You guys were asking for it, so we did it because we love you.
Finally.
Finally.
We have phasers, and what else do we have?
Yeah, we have
rocket launchers.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple airplanes.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind they are. You guys know that?
Joe
Not
does.
me.
Yeah.
Joe knows.
They're expensive, but if you want something a little cheaper, we also have T-shirts and mugs.
Mhm.
And,
and phone cases.
Oh, yeah, and phone cases. Yeah.
Which I am buying one of. That's right. I have to buy my own merch. Doesn't
Yeah.
come for free.
Nope. I don't give that away.
Find us, or you could be streaming us also almost anywhere. You are probably listening to us on iTunes though. If you do that, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a comment and a rating. Those are awesome. It's how other people find us, and I know you want other people to find us. You can find us on Facebook. We have a group and a page.
Which has been uber busy.
Yep. Like us, friend us, find us.
Find us, friend us.
Find us, friend us, like us.
And then tweet us.
Please like us. Please.
And then tweet us. Thinking sideways. No podcast or anything like that. That's okay. We tweet sometimes.
Occasionally we use that Twitter thing.
Every once in a while. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
Usually we do the email at the end. That's why I'm confused about if I've actually told you
Yeah.
everything or not. Sorry, I messed that one up.
They know where to find us.
Hey, you guys know where to find us. You're doing good at finding us. So that is everything about dolls.
Yeah, creepy dolls.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I never liked the movie Chucky, because dolls are creepy.
Yeah, I didn't ever see that.
Yeah, they are now.
You should go watch it.
No.
No, I didn't watch that movie.
But do go watch Burke and Hare. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's Simon Pegg. It's totally fun.
I gotta say, if you can make a comedy out of murder, that's awesome.
Oh, it's totally funny and weird because it's Simon Pegg.
Yeah, okay, I gotta see it. Yeah, and by the way, speaking of Simon Pegg, if you have not seen Shaun of the Dead, well, you better go see it.
Any of the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah.
Really.
All right. Bye.
You know what's funny is if anybody knows this story, every time I read about Burke and Hare, I have a really hard time not visualizing Simon Pegg.
Oh, that's fair.
Because there's
Yeah.
that movie. This is 5 years old. 5 years ago, they made a Burke and Hare, and he was in it. And every time I read this, I see his face. I cannot help it.
Sounds like a personal problem.
I did not see that movie. They actually made a movie about Burke and Hare.
Oh, it's a bit of a comedy.
How do you make a comedy out of this story?
So
it's Hollywood, and
Really?
it's Simon Pegg.
This is a Rooster Teeth production.
For nearly as long as history can remember, there have been tales of a large creature living amongst the snowy peaks of the Himalayan mountains. Today, we're going to look beyond the folklore and explore the evidence, sightings, and theories surrounding one of the most well-known cryptids in the world, the Yeti. This is Red Web. Task Force, welcome back to Red Web. We got another mystery here, another cryptid this week. I'm Trevor Collins, and with me, joining with the gut check, coming in blind, as always, we got Alfredo Diaz.
Hello. Of course, we gotta talk about Bigfoot's cousin, the Yeti.
Well, of course.
There's gotta be some theories that they're related or something.
Right.
They just look so similar to each other. I'm assuming that people are automatically gonna put them like adjacent next to each other on some kind of family tree.
Yeah. Like the Yeti was the one that was kicked out for doing no good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the shunned cousin, you know? Or just like the weird cousin.
Weird cousin. You get the ice, we'll take the nice Pacific Northwest, a little ice, a little summer.
I think the Yeti is more intriguing to me because I don't know. The conditions that it must live in, and then the areas as well.
Absolutely.
And things are much more limited, and the environment's a lot harsher compared to Bigfoot, who just got it easy in the woods. You know what I mean? There's deer everywhere.
Well, hold on.
Maybe you're gonna try and tackle on a bear or something like that. Sure, you got to do a hunters, but people think they live in the trees and travel, so I guess not. I'm never gonna let that down. That's the weirdest. That's the weirdest theory to me, that they just are up in the trees. Like
they're up in the tree, you know, just can't look up there.
Bro, how thick are those branches?
Too high up.
You know, big, thick old Bigfoot. Come on.
I'm picturing a Bigfoot hanging up in the canopies, you know, beyond the sight of a human being, but like that's where the branches are thinnest. So this tree is struggling. Like it's just a full ass creature just up there, tree branches bending under the weight.
Clenching with both arms, both legs, and the cheek as well.
I don't need to picture that. Well, hold on. Let me ask you a question. I do want to picture that. When you see a Bigfoot up in the trees, in your mind's eye, do you picture like, you know, two fluffy, two cheeks squeezing on that branch, or is it like a baboon up there and he's like full mooning it, just bare butt on that Bigfoot?
I would like to think that it's functional. The thickness is functional. You know what I mean? That like it acts as not only something to use the extra grip on when they want to just lay in the trees leisurely, but then also as like as a soft like bouncing mechanism, right?
Bouncing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important that you mentioned that. Oh man, I'm excited to talk about the Yeti. I had to make a research paper and memorize it so I could do a whole spiel back in like 6th grade about the Yeti. My friend did Bigfoot, I did Yeti.
And then you guys high-five. You're like, yeah!
Well, he dressed up in a Bigfoot outfit. I dressed up. I couldn't find a Yeti outfit, so I just dressed up as someone who would go to the Himalayas. And man,
that's a smart pick. Or just buy the Bigfoot costume.
Bleach it. Anyway, let's just dive into it because you know this one is just cryptid. Got some good stuff here. I'm going to talk about the folklore and the description and the origin, kind of the etymology of the name Yeti. But then talk about some of the sightings. Got some pictures for you, Fredo. As always, these photos will be placed on our YouTube upload as well as our Twitter page, both with the same handle, @RedWebPod. But let's dive in. We got the Yeti, who is believed to be an ape-like creature that resides at high elevations of the Himalayas over there, kind of in between India and China, in that kind of general area, right?
Okay, yeah.
The Yeti's name comes from the Sherpa word Yete, which translates roughly to cliff-dwelling bear. There's also some people that think that maybe this is from the word mete, which would mean man-bear, because of the hairy nature of it. There are bears in the Himalayas, and it stands upright, so you know you can see it both ways. But there are a plethora of other names out there for Yeti-like beings that many cultures surrounding and within the Himalayas all have, but we're going to use Yeti for the rest of this episode. Now, originally, these creatures were described as hairy men with red fur, unlike modern interpretations which have white fur. I think that that's very interesting because I didn't really know about that until kind of doing the research for this.
See, that's what I assume things like Bigfoot, maybe even like Mothman or all these other cryptids were just like, oh, there might have been like this group of hairy individuals, like this group of people who were like wearing large coats and capes and whatnot, and then it was just like jazzed up to be this crazy creature.
Wait a minute, you think so? There was just a man kicking it in the Himalayas with a nice cape and a monocle, maybe, and
I'm thinking for him it's just like a hairy dude, maybe just a hairy feeling.
So maybe just a nice hairy jacket. Stay
yeah,
warm, you know?
it just could be a super furry jacket, and then you know it's probably lots of snow and whatnot. I was talking about like the long cape because as I was like rambling about this, I went, okay, hold on. I mentioned Mothman, but how would Mothman look like if it was an actual person?
Oh man, I like that.
Like a long coat, cape type thing that they just always wear. Yeah.
Now there's something to that where you take the idea of what a cryptid looks like and you turn it into an actual outfit. Right. I like that. But I mean, yeah, you make a good point, especially if this thing's called man bear. Maybe this is just a couple of folk, you know, wearing bear pelts.
Yeah.
Encumbered by bear pelts. Anyway, it's entirely possible. I think that's a really interesting point, though, is it could just be some sensationalized version of seeing an oddity, and then it just becomes kind of this very popular cryptid, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just, I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, the white hair had to come from somewhere, and this was really interesting to me because I thought, you know, if the Yeti exists, of course it would be white because it would blend in. If it's a predator type creature, you don't want to be seen as this big red monstrous thing running after your prey, right? And so white hair makes sense, but this shakes the foundations of my belief because the white hair may have been added to the Yeti lore after the appearance of the abominable snowman in the 1964 movie Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, according to Dr. Emily Zarka of the YouTube channel Storied.
Oh, man, I totally forgot that creature was a thing, or it just... Is it considered a cryptid?
Abominable snowman, I think, is synonymous with Yeti. It actually is part of the notes that I have here that we'll go through. I think it's kind of like a mistranslation.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm learning so much. This is why I like sitting in on these episodes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. That's the thing, though. I love that you get to learn with the audience, so you get to ask the questions that they might be thinking. Task Force out there might be going, well, what's abominable? Let me talk about that.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. That's I think it is actually part of some of the folklore, and some of the stories get mistranslated, and that's where that word comes from. But coming back to kind of some of the descriptions of the Yeti, typically the Yeti is described somewhere close to human in nature, just larger with a bit more body hair. But other depictions, they range, right? Some have them a little bit more human-like, some have them less human-like, some have them with light hair, not too much on the body, and some have them with that thick, fluffy coat that you probably are more accustomed to seeing in art. But beyond the coat and whatever their hair looks like, they're said to have large, sharp teeth and a very pungent odor. I don't think if I smelled a Yeti, I would want to be anywhere close enough to be smelling it, but if I smelled it, you can consider yourself dead, probably.
Yeah, if you're close enough, I'm assuming it doesn't want to be seen or found, and I don't know, I don't think it's like a Disney movie where you're going to become best friends and then try and like protect the Yeti from the local authorities type thing.
Right, yeah, Yeti's on the run from the law.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a spider situation. It's more afraid of us than we are of it, you know? Maybe it's totally fine.
It could be, but I don't know. Like, I'm assuming the Yeti is a carnivore, and in order to be a carnivore, especially if it's like apex predator, you're going up against polar bears, I'm assuming are in the... Are they in the Himalayas?
Probably in the Arctic. Polar bears
are Arctic.
Map.
But I don't know if they are in other areas.
So if we say, I'm going to say, Task Force, if we sound different, we're back at home for this particular recording.
Yes.
So with that comes my ability to Google again. I don't think that they are in the Himalayas.
Wow. Then I guess they don't really need to be all big and violent to be... Who's going to challenge you, an alpaca?
That's a really good point, because it is worth clarifying. They don't hunt humans, or so it's said, that they don't hunt humans, that they are nocturnal, and that they hunt smaller animals and are actually known to disembowel their prey, which then calls into question, evolutionarily speaking, right? Scientifically speaking, zoologically speaking. Right? Why are they so big? They're 6 feet tall, more or less, and they weigh between 200 to 400 pounds, or 90 to about 180 kilos.
Wait, just 6 feet?
Right. So I'm thinking you and I can take this guy on.
I don't know about all that, but I mean, like, I was thinking he was taller.
Or maybe there's a lady Yeti.
Oh, female Yeti.
I don't know, man. We're definitely, they outclass us on weight. But I think you and I combined, we stack up.
That's true, but I thought I'd be looking up, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, I'm sure they got us in weight.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know the anatomy of a Yeti, but I'm thinking, like, if you're 6 foot tall, your arm span's only so far.
Well, humans, sure. You know, if this is a different ape-like creature.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know the anatomy. Like, I don't think he's like Kevin Durant, where he's got these exceptionally long arms that go down, like... I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But it also like makes me think of things like Gigantopithecus. If you want to like base this in fossil records and what we know about our own family history or whatever, you got the Gigantopithecus, 10-foot tall monster, you know, stepping around 400 to 600 pounds.
Yeah. See, I was thinking like 7 foot, 7'5", you know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was thinking too.
6 foot. I'm not looking up. I'm looking straight at him in the eyes.
I don't know if I want to look a Yeti in the eye, but
I mean, I wouldn't want to, but I mean, if he's up in my face, I'm not looking up.
Oh, jeez. You smell the smell, you see the pupils, you know you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't hunt humans, but if you're in front of it like that, you might be done. But much like Bigfoot, who is named for this very same feature, Yetis are known for their very large feet. In fact, we'll talk about some of the photos that have been taken of their supposed footprints, and they're very stocky. They're very wide, given the length, as opposed to Bigfoot's feet, which is, I think this is the biggest differentiator between these two supposed cryptids that I think delineates them as their own creatures. Not maybe a Bigfoot out of place, but rather, as you were kind of saying, maybe a cousin on the family tree or something like that.
Right, exactly.
But what's interesting to me, and we talked about history, the first recorded sighting of a Yeti in Western history occurred in the mid-1800s. We have Brian H. Hodgson, a British representative living in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. He was told and wrote about a, quote, wild man covered with long, dark hair and had no tail, end quote. And he claimed it stood on 2 legs and he thought it was an orangutan at first. But this goes way back into history, longer than I would have thought. Of course, if it's folklore, that makes sense, but supposedly Alexander the Great himself reportedly wanted to see the Yeti as far back as 326 BCE. So like 2,400 years ago, this guy's like, I want to see the Yeti.
How old is this Yeti?
I don't know. Maybe it's one old creature, or maybe again that secret family.
Generations.
Yeah, that hollow Earth theory. Maybe they're creeping out on the Himalayas every now and then, get some sunlight.
Dude, hollow Earth. We need to do an episode on that.
We need to dive into that for sure.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating. Any movie that has hollow Earth is always so fascinating. And then the weird thing too is, because we always got to talk about movies on this podcast. The weird thing too is that I feel like half of the movies that have like hollow Earth are just like surprise, they're surprise plots in the movies. Like,
oh yeah,
like I mean, this has been out for a little bit hot minute now, but Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yep.
It just, we're in hollow Earth. I'm like,
yeah, suddenly there's we're in the center of the planet. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, anyway.
I think it's a really interesting plot device for sure. I think it's just very fascinating because it's the Earth. You take for granted what it is, and then if suddenly there was a whole ecosystem inside, you're like, whoa, this is a Pokeball.
Yeah. And then we never open it.
Never open it. You don't know what's inside. But also, with regards to Alexander the Great, maybe this was his, he conquered a lot of countries, suffice it to say. I'm not going to go into the history lesson of all of it, but very much an expansive empire. You know, maybe this guy was just looking to land grab until he could grab the land that the Yeti was on. Maybe this was his driving force, you know?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It just calls into question how many cryptids really changed history, you know?
That would be... I don't even know how I'd feel about that. Like, I would feel like instead of more surprised, I'd feel just weirded out.
It would be very strange.
Right? Because it's like, oh, it wasn't like the Illuminati that changed history or swayed governments.
Right, it was just Bigfoot in a suit.
Yeah, just these cryptids. Like, what?
Oh, man. Like a cryptid society where they all meet in the hollow Earth.
Damn.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened to Mothman. We get a lot of tweets now and other social things about Mothman. And like, where did he go? You know what? I think he proved himself to the cryptid society, and he was welcomed with open arms and open wings into the hollow Earth. Anyway, I'm way off topic. Let's get back into it. So, talking about some of the indigenous peoples of the Himalayas, such as the Lepcha, they worshipped an entity known as Chumung, also referred to in English as Glacier Being. This entity was a god of hunting and the lord of all animals, and in some stories, it was feared by the people, and it created a whooshing or whistling sound. So this could also be another kind of origin for this Yeti creature, something that it was built on. In some Himalayan stories, the Yeti is a physical embodiment of the mountain deities themselves that enacts punishments when unappeased. It is neither fully animal nor fully human, and in this sense, perhaps not even fully alive.
Oh.
Maybe a being beyond the physical realm, even.
I've never heard of that, like, in terms of, like, I mean, yeah, I could see that, like, I just never thought of it never being like alive, like a vengeful spirit or something like that.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I think,
yeah.
It's a really cool way of thinking about it.
It definitely adds a lot more intrigue to something that, I mean, when you kind of sister it up to the Bigfoot story, we, you and I, we know pretty well about that. We did a whole episode on it. And so it's a physical creature walking around the woods. There's a lot of theories as to what it could be. And so I really enjoy kind of learning about some of the Tibetan stories and some of the peoples of the Himalayas and kind of learning some of their folklore, but also learning how this could kind of change how you look at something like the Yeti.
Yep.
But other Tibetan stories often describe Yeti as kind, rather than a vengeful spirit, right? Just more kind. In Tibetan folklore, the Yeti descends from the Buddhist personification of compassion, also known as Chenrezig. And I hope I'm pronouncing some of these proper names properly. I'm doing my best. Now, some stories claim that Chenrezig and a female ogre, which is a whole different cryptid topic, mated and gave birth to what we now know as the Yeti. Again, neither fully human or animal in general, just kind of a hybrid between this Buddhist personification and a female ogre.
A female? Oh, all right, now we're getting into territory. I'm just like, just never thought we'd think it's a ogre or some, like...
Right.
Okay.
We got some Shrek in here.
Yeah.
But kind of coming back to that kind version of the Yeti, I really like that angle because, I mean, an angry Yeti, I can picture that, but a nice kind Yeti, I like that. You know, like Monsters, Inc.?
Yeah. Like Sully.
Yeah, drinking yak's milk, pick all the hairs out, very nutritious. So in that same vein, we have another story here from Lama Sangwa Dorje, who is said to have founded the oldest monastery in Khumbu in northeastern Nepal when he stayed long-term in a cave there around 1667. Now, during this time, it is believed that a Yeti was actually helping him by providing him with food. And when the Yeti... Yeah, right? And when the Yeti would pass away, the creatures would leave their scalp and hands, their full hands, as relic with the Lama. And one of these relics, these set of hands, is famously known as, and again, I'm going to try my best, the Pongbochi hand, which we're going to talk a little bit more about.
Okay.
There's a whole mystery just around that in general, but it will come up in some of the expeditions we're going to talk about. So yeah, I guess they befriended the Yeti or a group of Yeti. It's like deer.
Right.
When it's plural, you don't slap an S on it. It's just Yeti is one, and it's also all of them. So I guess they would help each other a little bit, and then as a sign of respect, they would, when the deceased Yeti would pass away, the rest of the Yeti would, here's the scalp and hands as kind of a relic. It's very interesting.
That is really cool. That's what I would like to think it is.
Yeah.
I just
something nice.
I just don't think it turns out like that.
Right.
If it was, right? Like, I don't know. If life could be that simple.
Right. Well, let's talk about some of the expeditions into the Himalayas. This is where the meat and potatoes, as I like to say, lives. This is the sightings, the photographs, the sights and sounds of the Yeti. Maybe not the smells, but expeditions into the Himalayas to search for the Yeti began after British explorer Charles Howard Bury led the 1921 British Mount Everest reconnaissance expedition. He found animal tracks at high altitudes and he believed that they were from wolves, but when he found these, one of his Sherpa guides almost immediately volunteered that the tracks must be from, quote, the wild man of the snows, to which they gave the full name, Metokang Mi, or to translate it into English, filthy/unwashed snowman.
Weird.
Very weird.
Why are you insulting?
Why you gotta insult it? That's
like
what I'm
that?
saying.
That's just, you're going so hard in the paint.
I know.
Like,
get those words out of your mouth, man. He's gonna hear you.
That's insane.
These things cut their hands off for their friends. What are they gonna do to their enemies?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Anyway, they might take some relics of their own, but this is where Abominable actually starts to come in because Henry Newman of The Statesman wrote at that time about this finding, but he also mistranslated Metokangmi to Abominable Snowman instead, which led to the popular nickname for the Yeti that we know today. So it's very interesting. I mean, Abominable does mean, I feel like it's a far more offensive version of the word unwashed. So Oxford Languages defines it as, causing moral revulsion, loathsome, detestable, hateful, odious, obnoxious, and despicable. So he kind of really added some gravitas, perhaps for the newspaper sales or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's where abominable comes from.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes like a catchy headline, but I'll be honest, I didn't know it was that like offensive of a word. Like, my God.
I'm just thinking now, though. A newspaper headline that comes through and says, "Behold, the filthy snowman."
Yeah.
Oh, that does not have the same ring to it.
No, not at all.
Oh, man. Well, of course, much like we kind of explored with Mothman and other cryptids, as more Westerners ventured into the Himalayas, more claims of sightings started to arise around the Yeti. And it starts to make you wonder, is this a chicken or the egg situation?
Yep.
It starts to become very popular, and so people go out there looking for something specific. And of course, if you're looking for it, you might just see it, and it kind of becomes self-fulfilling prophecy and propagates through society.
I was just about to say that. I mean, if that's where how can you not think that? If that's where all the sightings started spiking, then it's definitely because people are just like, I don't know, they want to be a part of the story or want to try to get famous. The usual.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's also worth mentioning, too, that the Himalayas, especially at this time, are not super well known about. I mean, with regards to exploration, of course, there have been mountaineers up in there. I don't pretend to know all the history of the Himalayas, but we're in the 20s. That's all I want to say. And then in the 50s is where we really start to hit Mount Everest. So our short lifespan, you and I, Fredo, knowing about Mount Everest and all the people that have summited the thing really is all in near-term history. So the Himalayas are still, especially to Western culture, very intriguing, very curiosity-driving, right? They seem like a new frontier in that sense. And not to mention the world's tallest mountain is there. And so, of course, it just feeds into this kind of fever of looking for the unknown.
I could see that.
A few years later, in 1925, Greek photographer N.A. Tombazi spotted a creature on the slopes of the Himalayas. Now, when they saw it, it moved out of sight before he could take a picture, but he was able to describe it as, quote, "Unquestionably, the figure in outline was exactly like a human being, walking upright and stopping occasionally to uproot or pull at some dwarf rhododendron bushes," end quote. He also claimed that the creature was dark against the snowy terrain, which kind of checks off the idea of that kind of unwashed look or maybe that red hair look. But Tombazi and his group even saw footprints, which were similar to humans, but he said that they were about 6 to 7 inches long by 4 inches wide. So very stocky on a foot.
Damn. But see, that like if any footage comes up, then it's automatically like the blurriest, most low-res figure you've ever seen.
Right. A lot of artifacting.
Cryptids have got to be like terrified. Not everyone's got like a 4K camera in their pocket.
Right. That's the thing too, though, man. I've been on Cryptid Talk. I was just on there earlier today, and the compression is not keen. It's not great. And so they compress these videos in the woods where there's a lot of noise or it's dark, and you go, great, we've gone back to the 1950s with this with this camera quality. But I don't know. I think on one hand, I think that noise can add artifacts, which maybe make you see things, and then on the other hand, if you can catch a 4K footage of a Yeti, I will be hyped.
I don't know. I like to believe it. And I mean, there's people that can also like break it down and see if it's like photoshopped or, digitally enhanced in any way.
That's true.
It would shake people up, I'd tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
I would just want to know how. Like, how through all these years were you able to just hide?
Right. Teach this thing some language. I don't know, sign language, English, some, whatever it might speak.
Morse code, whatever.
Sit down with the thing, yeah. And then say, first of all, how?
Yeah.
Okay? Just say it. That would be the one thing. If any of these cryptids were real and I could ask them one thing.
How are you hidden for so long?
And where is the entrance to Hollow Earth? I mean, that's the second question. Easy.
Yeah. How do I get to Hogwarts?
Oh, now that's the question. I've been rewatching the Potter films. I'm sorry. I'm into it. I'm there. Take me back to my teens. Anyway, again, off track. This is the #1 movie podcast about mysteries. What am I supposed to do?
That it is.
Now, in 1951, we're going to flash forward a few decades here. We have another expedition to Mount Everest. Mountaineer Eric Shipton came across Yeti footprints and photographed them, as well as the trackway, which eventually led to an impassable crevasse. So essentially saying, you found some footprints, took a photo of them. We have those photos for you now. Fredo, we can show you those. Everybody else, task force, check out our Twitter page and YouTube page, like I mentioned. But yeah, there you go. If you want to check out the photo of the foot, and then also a photo of the kind of path of the footprints. Now, one thing about the foot is it's chonky.
Comically fat.
It's chonky, dude. Look at that big toe.
Well, the big toe is like, it's like one of Mickey's ears. It's so comically huge. And then the three, like, I guess like last toes on, I don't know, the pinky and the ones next to the, I don't know what those are called.
The ring toe and the middle toe?
Yeah, I guess ring toe and middle toe.
I don't
They're absurdly small. Like they're like baby tiny. It's just
baby
so weird.
Tiny. Baby
and then I guess like if you were to call it the index toe,
the pointer toe.
The pointer is just kind of thick, and
you know what? That says ogre to me.
That's so weird.
Looks like he picked up his mom's feet.
Yeah, if you told me that was an ogre, maybe that makes more sense. Not that really makes sense. I don't know, but like that's a little wild. Yeah,
it's very wild.
That's a weird looking foot.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. You see a pickaxe next to it, but for the sake of your mental map of this foot, because we're going to work our way around it, these prints were measured as 13 inches long and 8 inches wide. So again, now we have an upscaling of the footprint from about 26 years ago. But this time it's almost 3 times as long and twice as wide. So it's maintaining that very stocky stature, which is interesting because Bigfoot always was very long and not as wide, still wide obviously, but proportionally speaking would be like, for this width, probably like twice as long or something.
Yeah, I just don't know how you have any stability with.
That's what I'm thinking. It makes me wonder what kind of frosty stability you have with such a tree trunk of a footstep.
Yeah, like doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that big toe though, that's gonna be a strong toe for hooking onto rocks and stuff.
Yeah. Got one big
I gotta stop
toe.
looking at that foot. I'm getting a weird smell.
Oh my God. I can almost smell it.
I can smell it. Here's the thing too, is that when I look at the photo of the trail of footprints that were left behind, which you can see in front of your eyes here too, they're faint,
yeah,
but they're very close together.
Yeah, why are the footsteps so close?
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It makes me wonder if somebody didn't go through and maybe stamp these along. They're also incredibly linear and very close together. So there's almost no gate, as it were, between the steps, but also not a very wide creature. So unless he's walking like a runway model where he's 1 foot in front of the other, I don't know. It just, those are my observations.
Yeah, those footsteps are so close together. That's so weird.
Yeah. So that is the Shipton prints, as they're called. And a lot of people believe these so-called Shipton prints to be some of the strongest pieces of evidence to the Yeti's existence. Now, in subsequent decades, I would say, a lot of truth has come forward about faking footprints, especially on the Bigfoot front, because it's just a common thing, right? Crop circles are another thing that people can easily fake, whether some are real or not, up for debate. But it's hard to say, like, you could fake this stuff. So,
the 1000%.
Yeah.
Remember the Loch Ness Monster? It was like a little toy
oh, you're right.
boat, and someone like made like a little I don't know, paper mache neck head type thing. Like,
oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, we did a whole episode, Task Force. If you haven't listened to it, Loch Ness. There's that famous photo.
Like the famous photo. Yeah, I can't believe that. Like the famous photo was literally like a big old fake, and it was like. They came out and said, yeah, it's fake.
Deeply upset me. I still
crazy.
believe,
it's such
damn
a famous
it.
photo. Like, I've seen that photo so many times.
She's still real to me, damn it.
Well.
Nessie, I know you're out there. I'm coming for that Scottish treasure. Anyway.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, well, I didn't tell you about that part. I kept it to myself in the episode. I want to let you know about the doubloons. That she's holding on. So let's talk about another expedition. So I wanted to mention the Shipton prints because they are very commonly referred to. We're going to have some more footprints come up here in a little bit, and they only get bigger and bigger. So I'm wondering if this is the same creature growing, or if this lends credence to the idea that there's a family of big feet, or sorry, Yeti. Baby feet's out here, dude. Baby feet's just envious. Cousin to baby hands. All right. So May 29th, 1953, Sherpa mountaineer Tenzing Norgay and New Zealand mountaineer Sir Edmund Hillary became the first recorded people to reach the summit of Mount Everest. So again, this is kind of what I was talking about. In the early 20s, a lot of allure. In 1953, we finally have people, at least in documented history, to summit the beast that is Mount Everest. So, as you can imagine, this only influenced more people to venture to the highest reaches of the Himalayas. It only instilled more curiosity about the area to the wide world and drew a lot more of attention, right? And so the story of the Yeti just kind of built on from there. But what's interesting about these two in particular is that when they came back from their trip and gave stories about summiting Mount Everest, they claimed they also saw the Yeti during their expedition, which is very interesting.
Okay. I feel like they're just kind of throwing that on, and it's just like, hey,
right.
We already got the public's eye. Like, let's beef it up even more.
Right. But why? Hey, we just summited that huge mountain, but also we saw the Yeti.
Right? Exactly.
But that just reminds me of a personal theory I have that is not in my notes that I can't wait to dive into later on. Okay. That's going to blow your socks off. But let's come back to Edmund Hillary for a second. So one of his later trips, he returned with 3 relics from temples, including one from Khumbu, a 300-year-old Yeti scalp. Remember, we talked about those earlier. They were the relics of the scalps and the hands that were left.
Right.
Yeah. And so
I didn't even think about those popping back up.
I'm really happy that they exist because that's that tangible stuff that you love so much that can be tested.
Exactly.
So Hillary, he goes back out on one of his future trips and he returns with 3 of these. And supposedly one of them is a 300-year-old Yeti scalp. Now, in exchange for the important relic, Hillary donated to the monastery as well as the local school. He also had to agree to have a guardian accompany him as he traveled back with the relic. Sir Hillary brought them around the world to be examined, and eventually they turned out to be a portion of hide from either a bear or a goat.
Yeah. But I do love the fact that this was like something tangible and it was investigated.
Absolutely.
A lot of times it's just like, we'll have something like that and everyone just goes, I don't know, I guess, maybe, we don't know. And it's like, test the damn thing.
Right, just test it before you lose it, because we know you will. Every good thing gets lost. I hate it.
There was that one episode where, there was an important piece of evidence and got lost in the mail.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Christian, help me out. Do you remember that episode?
Christian, you remember.
My audio wasn't working. What was the question?
So
our man in the chair is
having some tech issues today.
The man in the chair is just like, he doesn't hear us. He's in a massage chair sleeping. What was the episode where important evidence was being shipped around, and before it could be made to the facility, the lab, to be tested, it got lost? Do you remember that one?
I think it was Bigfoot.
Of course it was.
No way.
Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it was.
Task Force now is like, no.
Oh, they know. They're letting us know right now. But here's the thing. I would rather it be on a cryptid than a true crime episode. You know what I mean?
I completely agree.
But at the same time, still equally frustrating at the end of the day to lose stuff. But hey, speaking of losing stuff, this episode's going to feature some lost items.
What? No.
Yeah, something else is going to get lost.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, god damn.
So I'll let Christian look that up. But eventually, after receiving the results from many of his expeditions, Hillary then believed, okay, the Yeti is a myth. Despite having seen it, despite having received these relics and testing them, he then decided, in his own opinion, nah, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a myth. What's interesting to me, though, is when they're testing the DNA of this hide, they either say, well, it's a bear or a goat. And I would imagine that you would be able, I'm not a DNAologist, right? But
no,
they're not the same creature.
You think they're not the same creature, and they wouldn't even be like genetically similar enough to claiming it's one, either or. But who knows? Freezing stuff, the temperatures, and
yeah, I just hope they're not going off of looks. Like somebody held this up and smelled it and pet it a little bit and said, "Yep, that's bear." You know, I hope some DNA evidence went into this and that they just weren't able to recover full DNA profiles.
It depends on the quality of the grade. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
if you're paying for a company
That's leather.
that is a high grading company, then it makes sense that they have the machines and they test it.
Right. Well, you got to be careful with that Yeti leather. It's very delicate, very rare.
I would be so careful with that. I feel like it would just crumble and break apart and shatter into pieces.
It's true, especially since it's been in the Himalayas for all this time, and it would be preserved pretty well in the cold. But let's talk about the last kind of expedition here.
Before you do, I found it. It was not Bigfoot. It was the Hinterkaifeck murders.
Oh, no.
Skulls of the victims were sent to a clairvoyant, and then in that whole process, the heads were lost.
It's even worse. I have such conflicted emotions. It wasn't a cryptid, but it was also a true crime. But also, it wasn't going to a lab. It was going to a clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Anyway. The Hinterkaifeck murders, very interesting stuff, Task Force. We did a whole episode on it. If you want to hear a little bit more of our displeasure with the handling of that evidence, go check it out. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Trevor coming right back at you. Happy New Year. By the way, I know we're starting to get into it now, so you're tired of hearing it, but I just wanted to say it. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Task Force, for listening all the way through the last year and into this next one. Hope you're enjoying the Yeti episode. Speaking of cryptids, I know I've been teasing this, and that's my fault. I've been teasing it for way too long, but we finally have some dates coming up for the cryptid pin set. It's going to look like it's next month here in February. Stay tuned. We're going to give you the specific dates as it approaches. But if you're excited for that pin set, I think we also have a hoodie for you. So we have a small Red Web collection coming at you. So, save those pocketbooks and get ready to join the task force if you haven't already. But with that said, I want to talk about some of the fantastic sponsors we have that help bring this show to you. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by ExpressVPN. I don't like people stealing my data, if I'm honest. I use ExpressVPN when I'm gaming online or if I'm browsing, and I want to make sure that my searches or my gaming or whatever, my IP is private. And I can do that without any lag to my gameplay or anything like that, thanks to ExpressVPN. It's very nice that we have this service. And I know most of you are probably thinking, why don't you just use incognito mode or something to that effect? Well, let me tell you something there, pal. Incognito mode does not hide your activity from your ISP. It doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history, okay? Mom's not going to find out, but someone will, okay? Your internet service provider, your ISP, can still see every single website you've ever visited. It all comes right through their servers and onto you. That's why even when you're at home, you should never go online without ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through a secure set of servers so that your ISP cannot see what the websites are that you are visiting. It runs in the background, it's very lightweight, and only requires the press of a button in order to be protected. It's pretty easy, pretty nice like that. So protect your online data today with the VPN that's rated #1 by Business Insider. You can visit our exclusive link, Task Force, by going to expressvpn.com/redweb. You get an extra 3 whole months for free on a 1-year package deal. All right, that's expressvpn.com, expressvpn.com/redweb, expressvpn.com/redweb to learn more and let them know we sent you. Protect that data while you're investigating. This episode of Red Web is also sponsored by Raycon. If you didn't make a New Year's resolution yet for this year, I get it. I don't like to make promises to myself that I'm never going to uphold, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't find a way to shake things up a little bit, whether it's just a new workout routine, changing your vacation spots, maybe just going outside more. That's my little New Year's resolution to myself here. However you choose to do something new this year, though, there's no better way to do it than with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds to make sure that you're getting full with those Red Web mysteries, maybe some music on the side. I know, listen, you can't listen to us all the time. You got get a little bit of music in there too, but they're everyday earbuds that they have. They feel, they look, and they sound better than ever. They're always upgrading, which I like. And they now have an awareness mode for you when you need to hear what's going on around you, right? You know, sometimes you're lost in the mystery, okay? And you're walking down the street. You need to be aware of your surroundings as well. And thankfully, they got you covered. And Raycons also offer 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. Okay, that's like 8 episodes at minimum of Red Web that you could be listening to on the go, sleek and seamless. stylish as always. I have a pair of wireless Raycons myself. They're nice and blue. Love the color. And I also love just that they don't stick out a whole lot. They're very low profile and they stick right in there. They have the adjustable little plastic rubbery things, whatever they're called, the little ear hole things. I like that because I have big ears. Let's be real. But right now, Task Force, you can get 15% off your Raycon order if you go to buyraycon.com/redweb. Again, that's buyraycon.com/redweb to save 15% off your pair of Raycons. buyraycon.com/redweb. Listen in style and be aware of your surroundings. Maybe if you're doing a little bit of Randonautica geocaching, you know what I mean? But as always, be careful out there. And let's get right back to that Yeti goodness. Coming back to that last expedition that we're going to talk about before we come into the more recent years and some of the stories and evidence there, right? Because I should say they didn't test the evidence for DNA. I forgot we're in the past, right? It's in the 50s. So of course they didn't test it for DNA. They tested it for probably the hair follicles, the look of the skin, the hair in particular is what they really compare against. And so that's why you have that bear or goat thing. But starting in 1957, there was a Texan businessman named Tom Slick who led a supposed reconnaissance mission. I don't know why it's in quotes, but it was a reconnaissance mission into the Himalayas for the Yeti. Slick's group supposedly found tracks, hairs, and even fecal matter, and supposedly the fecal matter was tested and could not be identified, and found even within the fecal matter unidentified parasites. So not only do we have a cryptid potentially on our hands because it has some unidentified fecal material, we also now have cryptid parasites along with it, which means there might be some whole cryptid ecosystem out there. Got some unknown parasites.
See, I mean, is it just because we haven't explored much of the Himalayas?
Maybe. I would be very curious to find out if that was a presently known but at that time not known parasite.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I don't want to ever discover parasites.
No.
That seems like the worst thing to discover. Because then I start thinking about all these movies I've seen where people get their minds melted or their bodies snatched. Or I don't like that.
Oh, you're thinking about the extremes.
Right. Well, I mean, when you're dealing with Yeti parasites, who knows?
Yeah, you're right. You never know. It's its own like germs and viruses and whatnot.
Well, Slick didn't stop there. That was his expedition, but he funded many other expeditions in search for the Yeti. On one such funded expedition, there was a man named Peter Byrne who stole fingers from the Pongbachi hand. Remember, that was one of the relics from Khumbu that we talked about earlier.
Right.
He stole some fingers, right? Because it's supposedly a hand of a Yeti. And he did so after the monks who owned it refused to let him take the piece for study. So he's like, all right, well, I'm going to show you, yoinks the fingers. And to disguise his crime, he replaces the fingers with human bones. I don't know where he sourced those bones from. I'm not going to ask.
What? Okay.
And then from there, it only gets stranger. Actor James Stewart joined in and reportedly just stole the entire hand, just yoinked the whole thing. And that's where the thing then went missing, which I think is a kind of a mini mystery in and of itself, the disappearance of the Pongbachi hand.
Like, what kind of poor security system do they have where people are just walking up snatching this thing?
I mean, to be fair, they're just monks living in their monastery. They don't expect people to come through and just yoink. But, I mean, you're not wrong. Maybe keep an eye on it, but...
Maybe like a chest with a lock or something.
Right. Yeah. But, yeah, so supposedly James Stewart then came through, regardless of the fingers or not, just yoinked the entire hand. And now that is out in the world somewhere, I think lost. So if that was a real Yeti hand, I guess we'll never know.
Oh, you hate to see it like that.
Mm-hmm. So those are some of the older expeditions and the goings on, the sightings, the footprints, the hand, the scalp, everything, and the way they tested it then. Now let's talk about some of the more recent updates, starting in 91 and then coming very recently to our own backyard in time here just a few years ago. But again, throughout these expeditions, some Yeti hair was collected, some fecal matter was collected, and eventually the advent of genetic testing came around. So in 1991, the Pongbachi hand was obtained by the television show Unsolved Mysteries. which is a show I basically grew up on. They performed a DNA test on the hand and found it to be, quote, near human, which is interesting. Not human. Not human. Near human.
I feel like it's such a, like, cop-out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Near human.
How can you be near human? Anyway, still, like I said, watching Harry Potter. So in 2013, very recently now, Brian Sykes of University of Oxford performed DNA tests on the hairs that were believed to be from the Yeti. So now we got that tangible evidence coming back into play. His team identified the hairs as an ancient polar bear species, which is very interesting to me.
Oh.
Especially if polar bears aren't native to that area, but were they? Especially if it's ancient.
See, now it comes full circle. Polar bears.
I mean, that makes sense. I think bears in general just make sense, you know?
I completely agree, but we're talking about how they weren't native there.
I search ancient polar bear, and I get so many pictures of the Yeti.
Really?
Early polar bear discovered in the Arctic tundra about 120,000 years ago, in the time of the woolly mammoths. So maybe these were just like woolly men and women. Woolly people.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Like Ice Age.
So they identified these hairs as ancient polar bear species. Very interesting because it means like the peoples of the Himalayas had held on to those artifacts or somehow found them. And so regardless of them actually being from a Yeti or not, those are wild artifacts to have procured.
Yeah, no, they definitely are crazy artifacts regardless of what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regardless of them being the Yeti or not.
But that's as near human as a banana is near human. You know what I mean? Like, they all have DNA, but it's like 80% shared. I don't know. I think you're definitely right that it was a cop-out for television, Unsolved Mysteries. But let's jump to 2017 now. Dr. Charlotte Lindquist of the University of Buffalo tested hairs, teeth, skin, fecal matter, and a thigh bone, all from the Himalayas. And in an Animal Planet documentary, they wanted her perspective on this. And so they provided her with all of these specimens, and they were found to belong to various bears native to these mountains. So that, I guess, kind of answers your question. Polar bears might not be native here. However, there are two endangered and ancient bears that are native to this area. You have the Tibetan brown bear and the Himalayan brown bear.
Oh.
When you look up these bears and what they look like, you can't say that they're red, but they definitely have... As one who I'm colorblind, so I look at these brown bears, and I can see how one might misconstrue a little bit of reddish out of their brown fur. I'm trying to like really stretch the limits here, but I could definitely see how somebody could see this at a distance. A bear can stand upright, and how this might look like a Yeti, especially the pre-white hair Yeti.
Yeah, at a distance, and then like if it's like, I don't know, like blizzard or snowstorm, something like that. Like, how are you going to identify anything at all?
Right. Well, then, specifically on April 9th of 2019, the Indian Army posted images to Twitter of, quote, mysterious footprints. Very interesting stuff. So they said in their tweet, for the first time, a hashtag Indian Army Mountaineering Expedition team has cited mysterious footprints of mythical beast Yeti, measuring 32 by 15 inches close to Makalu Base Camp on 9 April 2019. This elusive snowman has only been sighted at Makalu Barun National Park in the past. So they have photos of the team that found it, where they were when they found it, a close-up of the foot, and then also the walking gait of these footprints. And from the photos, I mean, we'll share the Twitter post with you here. And if you want Task Force, if you want to check them out, it's at ADGPI for the Indian Army's verified Twitter page. And again, I gave you the date, so go way back, April 29th, 2019 at 12:13 p.m. is when I posted it. You can check that out yourself. But the photo of the foot looks kind of like a boot.
It does look like a boot.
You know, in slush rather.
The footsteps are more spaced apart, so, you know.
Yeah, it definitely looks like somebody walked along there.
I thought about that there, but yeah. How is it so? There's like no toe marks or anything.
Right. Maybe Yeti copped a couple of Nikes, you know?
I mean, like, why not? Good luck finding a size. Just good luck finding Nikes out there, let alone the size that fits you.
The hyper wide. I mean, 13 inches long is one thing. The 8 inches wide is another.
Yeah.
Yeah. These don't fit that kind of general dimensions. Okay, so it doesn't look like the dimensions they give, which again was 32 inches by 15 inches. So this again, it's the same kind of scale, the same proportion, but way bigger than the last footprint we were talking about, let alone the early footprint we talked about. So I don't know. A lot of people gave him backlash because they're saying, hey, you're just kind of feeding into this hype, this potential pseudoscience, really, right? As a national army, you shouldn't really be doing that. But it did spark a lot of new interest in this mystery, which has kind of kept it alive in these recent years. But I don't know. I really appreciate the fact that there are still, some tricklings of potential evidence here in the recent decade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about keeping it alive.
Yeah. Well, beyond the story, I think it's just really interesting. But also, it's not very often that we talk about cryptids in particular, where there is evidence that continues up to today. Normally, it's like, back in the early 1900s, that's where there was a bunch of sightings, and that was it.
Yeah, or early 2000s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, why isn't there, I don't know, frozen hoops or fur or anything?
Right, I mean, that's the thing too. Bodies don't really decompose at a very quick rate up in the mountains, right? We had a whole mystery about Skeleton Lake, not in this specific area, but in a very close nearby area, stretch of the Himalayas there. And there's a lot of bodies found there that were super old that they just didn't decompose. There's also a lot of people like Green Boots on the trek up Mount Everest, where people who tried to summit unfortunately succumbed to the conditions and passed away, and it becomes more dangerous to bring them down, so they leave them there. And
that's so crazy.
It is. It's very crazy. But then they end up just kind of being there, and time passes by, but everywhere but for them. They look like the day that they passed. And so that's a very good question, Frey, because it makes you wonder, if there is a Yeti trouncing around in the Himalayas, why don't you see any of them that have passed away, right?
I mean, granted, maybe they pick the bodies and whatnot, but I don't know. I think it'd just be maybe like one or two, or something would happen, like a natural disaster up in the mountains, and they don't have that ability to just take the dead or themselves. Yeah.
That's wild. I was reading this article the other day, and by reading article, I'm a millennial. That means I just read the title and the headline. And suffice it to say, essentially there was an earthquake, and I believe it was the Himalayas. Again, I don't remember. I didn't internalize this piece, but I believe there was an earthquake that somehow unsurfaced and uncovered a several 100-year-old body, somebody that had passed away and maybe been buried or lost up in the mountains, and they came down a river that had since been, because of the earthquake, dislodged or something. Basically, they were found because of that, and they were in pristine condition, and people were like, who is this? And it turned out they were like 300 years old. That, I feel like, would be wild if there was some wild earthquake or something, and then a Yeti cemetery showed up, and it would just be like mind-bending.
I mean, as I say, it's definitely possible. It happened.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us up to today. This is, the quick and dirty, as every episode tends to be, as much information as we can pack in. But I really enjoyed exploring some of these more recent pieces of supposed evidence and some of the DNA exploration that they did in recent years, because I don't know. I think it, for me, helps lay it to rest a little bit more. I think something like Bigfoot, I still want to keep my mind open to the possibility, but for the Yeti in particular, I feel like, and we're about to dive into the theories, but one of these theories really, I think, stands out to me personally. But before we get into them, how do you feel? Like, with all this, the evidence and the photos?
I definitely find the Yeti to be way more interesting than Bigfoot.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think that, the location, kind of like some of the lore behind it, or possible lore behind it. I feel like there's just so many different paths that this could came from, right?
Absolutely.
It just could be a number of things, even as going as far back as this is just like a creature that survived the Ice Age or something like that. All of it's very intriguing, and I don't know. I just find it really fascinating, just like the locations in general.
I agree. I think it's way more fascinating because we have more information around it. You have the folklore, you have the history. The location is very, very cool and way different than any other cryptid. I think that's what, like, all that extra information kind of helps solidify, in my mind, my own opinion. And that's where Bigfoot kind of just being this entity off in the woods kind of makes it a little bit more open-ended for me on that front, where I can still maybe go, okay, I guess I could see Bigfoot being a thing, but I don't know. Maybe these fall into the same camp, and if one's debunked, both are. But yeah, I think that's more interesting, but easier to debunk, I think, because of that.
At the end of the day, though, I feel like it's just people, it's just folklore, and then there's just these people who are trying to create evidence around it.
Yeah.
On both ends, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's like, for one of the stories is that it was a deity, right? And so, yeah, on one hand, you want to like support your beliefs and you want to believe in the beliefs that you were raised on, and on the other hand, you might have people coming through that want to capitalize on a fascinating story. But let's dive into the theories. So, theory number one, I think we lightly talked about throughout the episode, and I think, even before I really dove into this research myself, kind of comes to mind naturally, and that this is nothing more than bears in the area. It is primarily believed that many who believe that they saw the Yeti are actually just seeing bears or other animals in general. It doesn't have to be a bear in particular, but in some Sherpa legends, the Yeti is actually a bear-like creature. In fact, there are 3 different kinds of these bear-like creatures. The Shipton print, when you look at those, or when those have been analyzed and compared to bear footprints, they do have some differences, right? Like this foot that was photographed had that really big, distinct big toe, right? Yeah. Large gap between that and all the other smaller ones. And bear paws tend to be a little bit more uniform and more unique, as well as being equal in height and width. But but not too dissimilar. So that would be like the biggest wrinkle for this theory. But many of the Yeti's features that have been talked about, the height, the coloring of the fur or hair, etc., all kind of also are shared with bears, whether it be a polar bear or a Himalayan brown bear or what have you. These are all features that one can find in bears. And the Himalayan brown bear is actually very unique to this area with a distinct genetic history, having derived its own genetic line 650,000 years ago from other brown bears. So all that is to say is there is a long-standing history with these bears in this area. I think it was interesting to note that the white hair on the Yeti has not always been at the forefront. In fact, most of history, it was known as a red-haired creature.
That's insanely fascinating.
It really is,
That's
huh?
all I've known it to be.
Yeah.
It's just like this white-haired creature.
Yeah. I find it strange, especially like going back to the YouTube channel Storied, to kind of quote them and their position on it, but that it derived from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie and their depiction of the abominable snowman. Like, that's so strange.
Yeah, kind of see it. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But with regards to the Himalayan bears, they are in fact endangered, so it would make sense that they aren't seen very often. They're not extinct, so you would still see them, but just, again, not very often. Brian Sykes, who I talked about before, his research suggests this and believes that the Yeti could actually be a hybrid, perhaps, between polar bears and the brown bears. So maybe something that we haven't properly seen before and would be way less common because, I mean, you just wouldn't see it very often. This would be a very rare occurrence to have. And so on the very few times that it has happened, maybe people have been around to see it, which would then answer maybe why we saw, as humans, had a hot spot in the 20s and 50s for these sightings, and not so much now.
Yep.
Because maybe it was the same bear, I don't know. Especially when the DNA that they tested actually matched a polar bear jaw's DNA, and that polar bear jaw was from around 40 to 120,000 years old. So, basically, there's a lot of possible range in this theory for it to be a bear.
I mean, it just makes the most sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's bears in that area, and it just, I don't know, like, to think that it's this creature that we just haven't been able to pinpoint I don't know. I think it's just a bear, and from a distance.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the most exciting answer, but I'm one of those people. I want to believe, but at the same time, it's just pragmatically it just addresses all of the kind of inner questions I have.
Yeah, I think like it lines up nicely for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like. I'm sure there's other theories, and I'm excited to hear about it because they're always so fascinating. But I'm pretty sure this is where I'm gonna end up with.
Yeah. Well, I still have my very avant-garde theory that I'll throw in here. This is more of a thought, but anyway. The next theory that I'm going to talk about is that the Yeti is simply a myth, that all the evidence around the Yeti is either a hoax or convenience in order to kind of build up the story, but the concept itself is still very real in the realms of folklore and many of the cultures that surround the Himalayas. The folklore from these groups have different messages, but communicate a very important part of their culture. For example, some people believe in the area that the Yeti represents the danger of high altitudes of the Himalayan mountains. In other cultures, it represents the unknown, the otherworldly aspects of these peaks. And I think that that's very poetic. I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, because when you really look at it, again, pragmatically, it stands to reason that these are just stories that one would tell their child so they don't go trouncing out into the unknown. Because, again, these are very high-altitude mountains, very treacherous, very, very dangerous even for a trained professional. And so you want to train your kids to not just go trouncing off through the snow and disappearing. So maybe you put a little bit of fear in them with the sense of, hey, you just don't go out there, not because it's dangerous, because you're a child. Because of a Yeti. I'm not saying that's the best way to go about it, but that would keep me off the mountain.
It makes the most sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, it's just made up thing in terms of just a couple kids.
Yeah, but to expand on the idea of this story, the Yeti representing the unknown and otherworldly aspects of these peaks. Within these stories, this is where the earth meets the spirit world. And again, I really want to indulge in this kind of folklore stuff because I find it so deeply fascinating. But the Tibetan stories tell of a being who is neither fully spirit nor fully human, and that because this is the place on earth where the physical realm meets the spirit world, that this entity isn't something to be feared, not representing the danger like others might say, but rather kind of representing this non-spirit, non-human entity that just resides in this very special place. Very cool stuff. But author Shiva Dakhal told BBC, kind of as I was indicating, quote, "Perhaps folk tales of the Yeti were used as a warning or likely of morality, so that kids wouldn't wander far away and they would be always close and safe within their community." Which makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I'd be terrified if there was some kind of, I don't know, big old creature like that my family was telling me about. I mean, I believed in Santa at one point in time, so...
I mean, and that guy's terrifying. You don't want to cross him.
Yeah.
On the naughty list.
What a weird concept.
Very
Man
strange.
just jumps into your house and drops gifts off and takes your cookies and milk.
Very strange. Very strange. And the last theory that I have on my notes is that, the Yeti is real. Or perhaps a cousin to Bigfoot, or is Bigfoot. I mean, the Yeti and Bigfoot are very often compared. And again, we did a whole episode on Bigfoot. I encourage you to check it out. It was a lot of fun. But like we saw with the Bigfoot, it is often theorized that the Yeti could just simply be an undiscovered animal species. And again, like the Bigfoot, it is an area of the planet that is very treacherous, or maybe not so treacherous, but with regards to Bigfoot, but can be very isolated.
Right, not easily accessible.
There you go.
Just like him, to go walk up into, you have to have gear, training.
Exactly.
So many aspects to it. You can't just wander in there.
So it's that isolation that's really where my heart lies. And that's why I want to be a believer, because as much as the science part of my brain says, nah, I love the idea that there is something so close to home but is inaccessible because this planet is huge and there could be something hidden there. Again, we referred to this.
We talk about water all the time.
Yeah, Exactly, and we talked about the Amazon and how, I mean, there are creatures on this planet 100% that we are still discovering, and I find that so freaking cool.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, but with the amount of similarities between these two cryptids, you know, with the physical features and the behaviors and all of that, many wonder if, for example, these aren't different species, but rather maybe different breeds of a similar animal family. Genus? I don't know. I don't remember biology, but that these could be essentially like cousins. That maybe over the long history of this planet, one kind of migrated to one section of the planet, and then they kind of diversified from there. But I kind of like that idea. I think that'd be fun to think about. But
I would just want to know why they stayed.
Yeah, harsh conditions, not a lot of food. But I guess when you become specialized, maybe you just kind of like, this is it.
True. Yeah.
Some kids never leave their hometown, you know. See that big wide world.
Yeah, they just want to stay there.
I guess to kind of support this last claim, Jillian wanted to put this in here. I think it's a fantastic fact, but also really drives home this potential theory. Because when you consider the giant panda, this is something I genuinely did not know.
Okay, giant panda.
The giant panda is essentially just the panda that we all come to know, that eats bamboo, black and white. Now, it was believed to be a myth by Westerners until as recently as 1869. And I mean, that really isn't a whole lot long ago, especially when you consider the length of humanity. But
wait, seriously?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, obviously in a very similar area of the Asian continent. But yeah, I mean, if you can have something that is as obvious as now in hindsight, as obvious as the giant panda is no longer myth, then maybe there's someday in the far future, 100, 200 years from now, where we got Yetis kicking it around in hopefully a very ethical zoo, you know?
That would be wild. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. So like pandas are just like, oh, that's a myth, they don't exist.
I guess so. I mean, specifically by Westerners, right? And
right.
So, like, you have people that would be local to the environment that the panda lives in, and they go, of course they exist. And then, because of, I mean, photographs are barely existing at this time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, like, it's all the limitation of our own knowledge and technology. And, you know, we're very advanced now, and so one would think that there would be very little hidden from us. But again, there are still, I mean, smaller creatures, to be fair, bugs and fungi and things that are still being discovered. But you're right. I mean, the ocean alone probably houses so many creatures that we
so
I mean,
many,
I think we talked about...
are so vast.
Yeah, and I think we talked about, like, the giant squid, for example. Like, in the Bigfoot episode, like, that was something that we only recently had footage of, and it was only theorized from things being washed up on a rare occasion over the last few decades. But, yeah, I don't know, and I think that part keeps my little intrigued brain alive, that little spark of curiosity. But the last theory, idea, thought I wanted to have, and I thought this was the most appropriate episode to put it out in, otherwise, dang, if it ain't a whole episode, zombies.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be owls again or something like that. I really thought it was going to be owls.
No, I love that you said, oh, zombies? Oh, okay, that's fine. Owls?
Dude. What the? What are you talking about? Owls. All right, zombies makes sense.
So, this isn't in my notes. This is all off the cuff. This is from, like, cryptid talk, essentially. But, no. This is from the Conspiracy Iceberg. A shout out, by the way, to YouTuber Wendigoon. That's his name. You should check him out. He's awesome. Anyway, he's a newer YouTuber, but he's really exploding. He does a lot of icebergs. Anyway, one of the icebergs he talks about involves zombies in the Himalayan mountains, and how people went on hikes and obviously like expeditions to the Himalayas, and guides would tell them preemptively about these entities, these zombies, these human-like creatures, whatever they were, that would just kind of be wandering around out there. And that when summoning the mountain or just kind of making your way through the area, if you saw one, to not look at it, to not give it any attention, lest it kind of catch your eye and start coming your way. But I don't know. And so there's a lot of anecdotal evidence about people seeing zombies out there, and maybe the Yeti is just a big guy. Maybe he's a big zombie, right?
Is it just a big zombie?
Yeah, like winter is coming, you know, we got the White Walkers up north. Maybe they bit a couple giants, and now they're coming.
It's interesting, like, why wouldn't you attack people then?
That's I don't know. They seem docile until otherwise like jostled, maybe. I don't know much about it. This is me again just scratching the surface, but I felt like, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them at least lightly, because you know you got zombies potentially in the Himalayas, you got the Yeti potentially in the Himalayas.
Who's to say it's not some type of virus that is just frozen?
We did say that there was a parasite in some fecal matter that was undiscovered. Who knows? Maybe the zombie outbreak is actually a parasite, not so much a virus.
I mean, it's so crazy though. Like there could be something frozen out there, and it just.
Don't say that. Oh, because there is. Global warming's gonna screw us up in ways we don't even know.
Dude, could you imagine like thinking global warming and then like, oh my god, like the melting and maybe there's
bro, that's too real, dude.
But really, it just like unleashes some type of
it's totally
plague,
possible.
Virus, creature.
Bro, it's totally possible. I hate to say it, it's totally possible.
So crazy, dude. It's so.
There are underwater lakes in Antarctica that have been discovered that are liquid bodies of water that are highly salinated, right? They're very, very salty. Hence, I mean, when you add salt to water, it drops the freezing point, so thus they can stay very cold but not frozen. And so they have these pockets deep under the ice that have been undisturbed that I think they're still exploring to this day. So this is me again, kind of just speaking off the cuff. I need to fact check myself here, but early signs are like, so there are theories basically that there might be signs of life or microbial at best, right? Not like giant fish or whatever, but it's that stuff that really freaks me out, right? Global warming, thaw that permafrost, release some sort of bacterias and viruses and ancient things into the air that we are not ready for.
So possible.
It's very possible. And I hope we're not talking about 2022 right now, because I can't handle it.
God. It's just be too much.
Yeah, man. Well, ending on that very high, low, scary note about the world potentially ending in various other ways. That's been the Yeti, Fredo. How do you feel? Did you learn something today?
I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I've learned there's a handful of things that I learned. That's one of the cool parts about like doing all this stuff, even if I don't believe in it. It's just like, oh, so that's why that's that way. Or yeah, I didn't know that it was like kind of off of the what is it, the Abominable Snowman?
Yeah, I guess it fed into that, but then also a depiction of that fed back into the Yeti. So it's like this chicken or the egg.
Right.
Thing
it's all like very interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm more stuck on the terrifying note that we just discussed.
Yeah, well, I'll leave you that. That's the thing, man. Like, Yeti is one of those ones, just like Bigfoot, I'll keep saying it, where they're just so well known. Like, so many people know about them, but when you really dive into the story and the folklore rather, and some of the sightings and the potential evidence, you really start to pull it apart and go, oh man, there's a lot here that I didn't know about. Whether you want to take it at face value or take it as a story, either way, deeply fascinating stuff. It's what drives us to do this show, you know?
Exactly. I think it's awesome. And then that's why, you know, you're the person that like loves diving into these things. But like every time you throw in the hook, I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, I want to learn more about this. Like, I can't just sit there and go, you know,
Yeti.
Sounds cool, but whatever. It's like, okay, like break down the Yeti to me. Like, I've heard about this thing, I've seen it on TV or a movie or whatnot, read it in a book, but like, where does it come from? Like, what are the theories around it?
Yeah. Well, if you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. We have plenty of other episodes from other mysteries, internet mysteries, true crime, cryptids, all that sort of stuff. I want to give a quick shout out, and I want to do this more consistently because Task Force, you guys have been amazing. You guys have been really cool about sharing our podcast with other people who are mystery enthusiasts like ourselves. And I am very humbled by it. I'm very appreciative of it because it is truly the easiest and best way to support this show and help us grow what we do here and enable this show to keep having legs and keep doing cool stuff like this. So I want to give a quick shout out to Amiyasha on Reddit. That's their username for in the non-murder mysteries subreddit, which I am a subscriber to and I peruse all the time. Somebody was looking for podcasts, and that was one of the top-rated comments was talking about Red Web. And so, yeah, thank you for doing that. There was also somebody else in there, EcoDude74. So thank you guys very much. for sharing the podcast. And I'm going to try to do more shout outs like that because I see everybody everywhere shouting out our show on Reddit and Twitter and YouTube and everything. And I'm just very appreciative of that.
Honestly, I mean, I say this often, but it's actually really cool because like you were an enthusiast and I was the one that was just like very much like enamored by the whole thought of all this, all these like mysteries. And we don't like do an 8-episode deep dive into like one topic. We just kind of break it down. And now that, you know, we've really found our rhythm, recording in the office, not for this particular episode, it's the holidays, but like, you know, now being in the office, it's a lot more of like us goofing around and getting back to the mysteries and going on these different tangents. And like for us to just be ourselves and to be accepted like that, especially like in a newer space is really cool. And it's an awesome feeling. And we can't thank you guys enough.
100%. This is a show I care a lot about everything I do, but this show in particular is like a true passion project. And so to see it resonate with other folks out there is just really cool. And speaking of all of that, in one kind of final swoop, I'll ask that maybe if you listen to us on Spotify, they just opened or they're rolling out the review function on Spotify. So now, not only can you give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, if you are so inclined, you can do that on Spotify. So if you want to take just a couple minutes to help support the show in their algorithm, it helps us surface to other viewers like yourself. Or listeners, I should say. But anyway, that's a new function. Really cool. I think as of the other day, this is a brand new function. We already have several hundred 5-star reviews just like instantly. So thank you all for that as well. I truly can't say thank you enough.
Help spread the word so the task force grows and I can have more meat shields. I mean, what?
Well, you and I are going to tackle the Yeti by ourselves. And,
No,
we'll be good. We'll be good. Yeah, we got this. Anyway, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next Monday for another mystery.